morning. So if you can all settle down. I think maybe let's settle down. We had scheduled ourselves to start at 9:30. It's already 10 to 10. Can we just ascertain as to whether everybody that has to be here is here, so that we don't leave anybody outside? We don't want a situation where when we start, other people would come in late and will have moved, because unfortunately we are not going to go back. So once we've started, we've started. Messi Banyon, is everybody here? Yeah, we'll give you just 5 minutes to make sure that everybody that should be here is really present. Because I know there are other competing programs that we must also attend to. So we're not going to be here the whole day. You will just show. So if you can get it from him, or ask him to. But is it feasible to present the whole thing? It's not. It's tiring. So rather maybe he uses. I can imagine you have to present the whole thing. It's not as. Unless if you are okay.
I see what you mean. It's those lights. It's very difficult to see on that side.
let's start. A good morning to all of you. Those that are here. I think in our expectation, we were expecting about 6, I think, groups of petitioners, possibly from a different taxi, or maybe not so much organizations, but groupings who will have submitted petitions with us. We are told that all 6 are here. But before we start, procedurally we are expected to declare this meeting site as a precinct of the legislature. So for all intents and purposes, this venue will be deemed as though a site of the legislature. Effectively meaning that the conduct, the style and manner in which the meeting will be facilitated must resemble meetings, or the normative way in which meetings in the legislature are being conducted. So that is in accordance with section 56, or rather rule 56. I'm accustomed to sections. You know, in my other life, I would usually argue around the sections in court. But of course, insofar as the legislature works, it would be rule 56 of the standing rules of the legislature. Having said that, let me welcome all of you for availing yourselves this morning on a very contentious subject matter, a matter that pertains to your industry and the volatility that characterizes the industry. But of course, much as we give that kind of an analytic as related to the industry, is that we solemnly believe that in partnership with all necessary stakeholders, of course spearheaded and guided by the involvement of the executive, and we really want to differentiate the executive from the legislature, we would be able to achieve quite a great deal of interventions that are sought in a way in which to harmonize relations within the industry, pacify differences, and where warranted, employ necessary interventions to try to dissuade some kind of tendencies which have been manifest over time. And so, as we welcome you, the intention really, or the premise for our meeting is really that we would want to go through the report. Obviously, this is a report that will be known to yourselves, those that are petitioners or will have submitted petitions with us. Very extensive report that details and diagnoses some of the challenges which besets the industry. So amongst us, we also have a delegation from the Department of Transport. But of course, the Petition Standing Committee. Immediately once we're done with the welcome, we'll do the introductions formally so that we are well acquainted with one another, so that we are not amiss insofar as why we're here this morning. Safe to say that we really are looking forward to a kind of robust engagements that will bring us closer towards addressing some of the notable challenges that are there. But of course, much of the guidance will be coming from you, because At any rate, in so much as the department will have undertaken to do investigation, set up a commission, in the final analysis, much of the actualization of what the department will have recommended can only materialize through your involvement, through your willingness to ensure that you see those recommendations to be done. And that is the sense that we have as the Petition Standing Committee. But of course, I think what is central to us is that we carry a mandate as this committee, which is, as I usually would characterize it, it's a very unique committee, which is an interventionist in form, but of course also in its outlook. And that is why we will have thought it becomes quite crucial that post the commission that would have been undertaken through your behest, by the way, we then create a space that will enable a proper informal feedback, HOD. So that again we are not amazed insofar as some of the findings, articulations of the report. I think having said that, we really would want to welcome you. I would hope that our meeting will go as planned, that we are able to converge at a point where there's some level of understanding around how best to navigate those stated challenges. I quickly want to go to the background as well as the purpose, although I will have touched on it a bit. Is that you will recall some time ago, well, at different years, is that the Petition Standing Committee will have received quite a number of petitions lamenting some or the other challenges that will have materialized in the scope of your trade within the minibus taxi type services. And these petitions will have been submitted by different groups of petitioners. So we would usually call those group petitions, because it was not a singular or individual petitions. And the sense that we got as the Petitions Committee, well, I suppose much of the petitions were inherited. So even our predecessors will have had to contend with a number of petitions being submitted. And even as we assumed office in 2019, we found that there were quite a number of petitions, all related to the taxi industry. And we will have taken about two, I think, the Boschkop one as well as the Krugerstop one. Safe to say that as being the successors in title, we also then had to take ownership of the other preceding petitions. And I think one of those was about the unfair treatment, Skilpad Fontaine. That was but one of them. The second one, the outcry there would have been about the illegal operation of a taxi association in the New Year's Terrace, submitted by Ntate Muima, the former. The other one submitted by Ntate Paul Joseph. And then there was another one, Taxi Conflicts, Zonki Zizwe Taxi Association, submitted by Ntate Ngwenya. The fourth one, Merging of Taxi Association in Kopano and Johannesburg, submitted by Ntate Mkwanas. The fifth one, as I would have already mentioned, the Boschkop and Mainline taxi merger of associations, submitted by Mr. Maela. And the sixth one, related to unfair elections and illegal taxi operations, Greater Krugersdorp Taxi Association, submitted by Mr. Moetlo. Yeah, I hope I'm pronouncing the surname correct. So in the main, these are the petitions that will have been submitted with us. But track back, you will remember that a while ago, in 2016, there will have been somewhat of a session wherein the Department of Transport will have interacted with the taxi industry, St. George's. And then part of the outcomes of that would have also culminated into what we now refer to as a commission of inquiry around all the conflicts within the taxi industry. But we really would want to focus ourselves on what was submitted with us, because the mandate of the commission was a bit broader. Safe to say that it will have touched on all of the issues that would have been raised with us through the petitions. And I think it's a milestone in a way, because you'll remember with the Welgemoed commission, it was more partisan in that it spoke mainly to the whole question of the buses. And I think taxi associations will have felt we need something that relates directly and immediately to us. And I think in our interactions, even with the MEC of Transport, that the Mama will have at some point agreed that there was a need to have this commission of inquiry. And as we sit, we are very delighted at the fact that indeed the commission of inquiry will have been hosted. And quite extensive and a rigorous process, stemming for about 14 months, HOD if I'm not mistaken, 14 months, over with a record number of about 113 sittings. So effectively 113 meetings, where scores and piles of evidential material had to be scrutinized, a number of witnesses being called upon the inquiry. And so the extent of the deliberation sought to fathom and have an appreciation of what the issues are within the industry. But of course, the department is best placed to articulate, in summary, of course, what the thought process premising the establishment of the inquiry would have been, and what is it that they will have diagnosed, and having diagnosed, what is it that they will have recommended. And of course, you will find that the report is segmented into different aspects related to some of the issues that in your own articulations you will have raised, both through the petitions, but of course in other platforms. So the petition standing committee is not the only platform where you will have raised these specific issues, but elsewhere you will have raised your grievances, you will have raised your hues and cries about some of the prevalent problems and challenges plaguing the industry. And I know the inquiry sought to have an understanding of the underlying reasons, so the nature as well as the causal factors, related to the conflict, casualties within the industry. The inquiry also sought to understand the criminal element that has also been manifest within the industry, such that it will have a cause for illegal operations in certain instances. But of course, also the challenges of, or related rather, to some of the clashes around the route allocation. So it could be direct routes, it could be interchanges. and then also other related matters as I will have been deemed to have a material bearing for the consideration of the commission of inquiry. But as we will have stated, as we sit here this morning, we will have invited the department to give us a summative overview of the report, such that you will also have an appreciation, because we are not too sure, HOD, whether there will have been an interaction with these stakeholders in particular. I know maybe the report, being a public document, whether it will have been, disseminated to all affected parties. So we thought, because we are expected through our legislation to give you feedback on the outcomes of the commission of inquiry, as also having been the proponents of the inquiry itself, we thought we must report to you formally, so that you don't just pick up the report on the streets, because I don't think that would augur well with yourselves. So having said that, we quickly want to deal with the introductions, both of the membership of the committee, so that as you engage, you are well acquainted with the table, you know who's here. But also extend the introductions to a delegation from the Department of Transport and any other official that might have been designated this morning to come and assist us on this particular matter or matters before us. So I want to start with myself. My name is Ezra Letsoalo, and I'm the chairperson of the Petitions Standing Committee since 2019. So immediately after the 2019 national general elections. So you could almost understand some of our limitations insofar as appreciating what will have came before us. Safe to say that we will have taken a bit of time to familiarize ourselves with those specific issues. But of course, you better than ourselves would be best placed to assist us in that regard. And we're hoping that through your assistance and through the guide of the department, we'll be able to come to some form of a finality, or at least some level of understanding around how to take the process forward. Because I can almost imagine that a report does not necessarily resolve all the issues. It's more diagnostic in nature. Safe to say that there might have to be other processes related to the implementation of the recommendations as contained in the report. So I want to hand over to, so the committee is two-folded. There's the political membership of the committee, then there's the administrative membership of the committee. So we'll start first with the political membership. So this is what you would ordinarily call members of the provincial legislature, otherwise likened to members of parliament. Remember, the legislature is just like a parliament, so it's a provincial parliament, if you will. So I want to start on my right at the far end. Yeah, maybe let's introduce ourselves.
Dolile Dwaba, member of the Petitions Committee.
Member of the committee.
Petros Mabunda, member of the committee.
Good morning, my name is Greg Schneeman, also a member of the committee.
Okay. Good morning, my name is King Sol Chabalala, a member of the committee.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wilry Peach. I'm also a member of the committee.
Morning, everyone. My name is Malisela Letwaba, member of the committee.
Morning, everyone. My name is Khomoso Tong, member of this committee.
So thank you very much. So that constitutes the political membership of the committee. But of course, our work is also anchored by the administrative membership of the committee, also as crucial and central. So this is the team that you would harass. Ordinarily, when you submit petitions, this is the team that would refer to the department, the HOD. So very, very central to our work. We'll start with the committee coordinator. So if you can introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Cesagele, committee coordinator for the committee.
Good morning, I'm Mrs. Shabangu. I'm the petitions administrator in the petitions office.
Sanbonani Kamil Musimpiangwani, researcher committee.
Good morning, Musima Kekana, legal advisor.
Good morning, my name is Nombulelo Mfuku, committee administrator of the petitions committee. Thank you.
Sanbonani Kamkulegani Wakulu from Hansat.
Dimachelo, Zinalanga Ndimbura Walika, the petitions officer. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Is that all?
Communication unit in GPL, audiovisual specialist.
Yeah. And then our service providers, we want to know you. So that is an answer that also makes a mic. Listen. We also want to know you. So is that from the department? Okay. Before that, my brother. So far, itself. When my brother, he gets this.
Sipo
Shabala. My brother over there. Your name? No, your full name. Okay. And the other one next to you? And yourself over there, my brother? Osborne. Or L. Osborne. Okay. Please to know all of you. So it's very crucial that you are part of our session. Therefore, we must know you. No? Maybe let's go to the department quickly. HOD, you will lead the introduction.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Makuk Mampur. I'm the head of department for the Gauteng Department of Roads and Transport. I should just indicate, Chair, that I believe that a formal apology was submitted for MEC Jacob Mamabulo, who is engaged in something else. Thank you. I'm with a delegation of senior managers that side who will introduce themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Kalibitso Kirasel Motsamai Mahibila, Director in the Office of the HOD, the Department of Roads and Transport. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. My name is Lebo Smith, Chairperson of the PRE.
PRE, what is it? Provincial
Regulatory Entity.
Okay. Regulatory
Entity. Good morning, Chair and members of the Petitions Committee and everyone. My name is Modise Sojani. I'm a Director in Registration and Monitoring, Department of Roads and Transport. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to everyone. My name is Nontlantla Dube. I'm the Director responsible for operating licensing.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Angela Andrews.
I'm the Director for Policy and Intergovernmental Relations in the Department of Roads and Transport.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Stone Dipoko, the Parliamentary Officer in the Office of the MEC.
Who doesn't know Stone? Oh, so the department is done. Okay, so the department is done. So thank you very much to yourself, HOD. You know what excites me is that as I browse through the report, on areas where we thought they are problematic, they are aligned officials. So PRE, there's somebody from PRE. Monitoring and evaluation, somebody there. Operations, licensing, somebody there. So I'm quite excited because it means we'll have a meaningful engagement, you know. So thank you very much for that. Then let's quickly, so we'll do a quicker introduction of all the petitioners that are here. We'll start from you, sir, and then we can cycle it. From yourself. Where's the mic? And this is for recording purposes. That
Sanbona, igama uthulana kaMahlangu from Bochkop Taxi Association.
Thank you very much.
Silochise kuMahlangu Dingane obuya eBoskop Taxi Associations.
Good morning. My name is Vusi Ngokomashe. I'm from civil society organization Landrosa, which is attached to the parliamentary monitoring group. I'm here as a monitor.
My name is Sabaf Mzoleza, Kopanandikila Makauta.
Dumelang, lebitso ke Joseph Mkhwananzi wa KTM.
Dumelang babotle, lebitso ke Ino Sekabi from Central Top 11 Taxi Association.
Tobela, ke Letlhaolo Loranamane from Central Top 11 Taxi Association.
Sanbonani, ujabulana kaMkhonza lo. Ubuya kuSanko RTT.
Dumelang, ki Buti Radine, ki Agent of Transport Kuruleni from RTT. Thank you.
Sanbonani, igama White Ngwenya from Sanko Egoruleni. I'm a petitioner.
This is Ole Muima from New Eastras, representing the New Eastras community.
Good morning, everyone. This is Caroline Shongwane from New Eastras, representing New Eastras community.
Dumelang, ki Joseph Isai Sokwatle from Greater Krugersdorp Taxi Association.
Dumela, ki Ishmael Moetla from Greater Krugersdorp Taxi Association.
Seems as if we're done. There's only one person who hasn't introduced themselves. It's yourself. Okay? You were outside. Mengun. Or you introduced yourself? Okay. So thank you very much for that. So without wasting any further time, because at 12 o'clock we must release the HOD. I know there's another scheduled meeting, but we had requested that he be here with us. So we really want to already get into what brings all of us here this morning. So HOD, the platform is yours. will have requested that you take us through a summative version of the report. I know the report is a bit comprehensive, but if you can give us a much more briefer version of it.
Oh, it's touch screen.
Yeah. The only request is that I just want to make a request, especially to our petitioners. The HOD is going to present this report. Maybe I don't know if there are these notepads, so that you know. Again, we want to have a structured debate. We are not going back. We are not, if you will, we are not a conference or a symposium. We want to be specific to issues that you will have raised against what the report is saying. And I can only assume, I might be mistaken too, whether these stakeholders were part of the commission, whether they were invited. I can imagine they were. So we're speaking to specifics, because if we allow a situation where we circle issues, we're not going to get at anything. I want you to leverage the presence of the department here with you. So it's unlike any other. Imagine there's a number of taxi associations. But today we're only dealing with you because you had addressed us as the legislature. So you have got the privilege of being the first, to interact with the department on the outcome of the commission. So I don't want that we take up too much time and, going back to way older issues, whereas at least the report brings us closer to giving some form of a redress in all the issues that you will have raised. But the second thing is that we are not bringing new issues. Because I know there's always a temptation, it was not in the petition, but we are not going to do that. We only focus ourselves on what you will have raised, isn't it? So are we agreeable? Can we agree on that approach? Thank you very much. So over to you, HOD.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning to members of the committee, to petitioners, and to my colleagues in the department and colleagues in the legislature. That on the screen right now is a reflection of the contents of the report, and it is the structure of the presentation that we'll be making. I'm cognizant of the need to save time, Chair, so I'm going to try and run through it quickly without compromising the contents. So the commission was set up through proclamation, and it was given a mandate to investigate several aspects, and in the final analysis, it's more along the lines of investigating violence in the taxi industry, its causes, and how those can be curtailed. That's the sum total of the mandate of the commission. So it was set up, it's a judicial commission. It was headed by a judge of the High Court, a retired judge of the High Court, and he had 2 co-commissioners. So these 3 slides talk to the mandate of the commission in detail. So I'm just running through them so that I then go into the findings and the recommendations of the commission. And the findings and the recommendations of the commission are covered through different thematic areas. The first thematic area was on the minibus taxi type business model. So the commission found that there were difficulties which resulted or led to aspects of violence, and those had to do with the minibus type taxi association business model. For example, the fact that the law allows all manner of vehicle types to operate, and yet in actual action, only minibus type taxi association seem to be the ones that are allowed to operate. The commission also found that there were issues with the manner in which the taxi industry organizes itself. It organizes itself in such a way that associations are the be it and end all of operations at taxi ranks, and on routes, and people not associated with any of the associations or not in membership of any of those were being stopped from operating, and the commission found that is actually against the law, because the law doesn't institutionalize membership of associations as the only model for operation. So as a result, associations, it is the findings of the commission, they close the space for anyone else, and that ripples, because it means if you are a leader of an association, you do not want to ever leave office. The commission made findings on the types of operators, those with operating licenses linked to vehicles operating on the route. The second type, those with vehicles operating license operating as the first type, but also they have other vehicles that operate. So this is almost creating twins. So if
maybe just to interrupt you, if maybe Nombulelo, if you can assist the HOD with the mic, because we're streaming live.
Okay.
So we're live. So apparently the sound is
not
captured
good
as well. So if you can speak to the mic, so that the audio is much more.
Or shouldn't I just use? Can I stand and use that? I can stand.
Chair, is it okay? No,
It'll be fine. It's okay.
It will force me to be quick.
Okay, whatever that you are comfortable with.
Yes. So the second type, as I was saying, Chair, is the type of those people that they use the fact that they have an operating license to put into that list their other vehicles, and the third type are the people without operating licenses. So the commission further found that regulations fall in three categories. Municipal, these are regulators. There's municipal regulators, there's provincial regulators, there's national regulators. You'll see, Chair, as we move along, that even though it is legislated for operators to be in those categories, municipalities have not effectively set in place regulations. The Commission also found that our provincial regulatory agents has not issued operating licenses to this type of service, where the operator identifies the use of a vehicle other than the minibus. And this is the point that we're making, Chair, that although the law says something, we have not quite always tapped what the law says. And then the second category of findings by the Commission had to do with licensing and compliance. And here again, the Commission made several observations with respect to the operations of our provincial regulatory agency. For example, that it doesn't appropriately vet those who apply. So in other words, it's a result of us not vetting everyone. We have people that enter the space of the taxi industry, and they ideally shouldn't even be in that space, whether they have criminal records or any of those things. In as far as planning authorities are concerned, only comprehensive integrated transport plans were submitted to the Commission but appeared unsuitable. So basically, the comprehensive integrated transport plans is almost an enabler for the operations of planning authorities, and those that were submitted were not found to be suitable. On oversight and monitoring, the Commission had that in practice, oversight and monitoring of public transport, including dispute resolution where conflict arises, is done by our departmental officials who are not employed by the PRE. So the Commission was differentiating between roles and finding that we have not quite trained people to be conflict resolvers. So, but the regulatory entity itself is carrying out its statutory function, but it's not doing the monitoring and evaluation function. And then the Commission made findings in another category of criminal investigations and prosecutions, and this is where many of the petitioners will be heavily invested and interested. And I'm going to summarize this very busy slide. Basically, at the point of the hearings of the Commission, there were about 521 cases that had to do with criminal investigations in the taxi industry, whether for murder, for very serious crime. And the Commission found that either case dockets were disappearing, people were not being convicted, cases were going on too long without any resolution whatsoever. And the point that the Commission then made was that even though there are instances of police cooperation, there have also been instances where prosecutors have been forced either not to prosecute or withdraw charges due to a lack of cooperation by the investigating officers, due to witnesses either dying or choosing not to continue to cooperate. For those cases that ended up in court, there have been mixed outcomes. There have been cases where accused were convicted and sentenced to varying periods, from life imprisonment and all of that, but also there have been instances where cases did not result in conviction. In terms of contributions of municipalities, the Commission made these findings about what the law says, and then it then makes the point that the municipalities have not set in place structures that are supposed to make sure that they carry out their function. And then the Commission made certain findings in terms of information systems, and here the information systems, the long and short of it is that the system is archaic, and because it is archaic, it is bound to manipulation, but also it's bound to compromise the work. And then it made the point that certain findings on the National Department of Transport, and this also links up with the systems, E-NATIs, OLAs, and all of those systems, which are nationally managed, and they also need to be updated and modernized. I'm just rushing to the recommendations that the Commission has made, Chairperson, and the recommendations are aligned to the findings that the Commission has made. So on the minibus type operations model, the Commission recommends strict compliance with the legal framework, and that all operators without operating licenses should be allowed to apply for operating licenses, and the applications be considered according to the legal requirements. But essentially, in the final analysis, what the Commission is saying is that we should legalize the model, and we should do it in line with what the legislation provides for. Again, on the business model, regulators should be capacitated to appropriately do their work and enable semi-independence as quasi-judicial bodies. A code of conduct should be developed for members of our regulatory entities, whether at province, national, and at all levels. It also makes the point about the need to vet people that are involved in the regulations of the taxi industry. Again, security features in operating licenses and face value documents should be improved. And the point here is that we have had instances where this had been duplicated, this had been stolen, and there's a need to enforce in the event that those are duplicated. We should also ensure that face value documents that are kept at our MVRAs, and these are our operating areas in municipalities, are appropriately secured, because on occasion they get stolen, we get break-ins, and they find their way into society. Then it made recommendations pertaining to licensing, and here it's saying our PRE must follow the letter of the law in terms of the NLTA, including the vetting of applicants. And this is the point that the Commission was making about the industry being entered by people who shouldn't necessarily be in that space. Again, on the licensing and compliance, we must undo all joint ventures. And the point here, Chair, is that joint ventures have caused too many problems. We have had instances where we met with associations that were proposing joint ventures, and yet it doesn't appear that they are in full agreement in terms of what those should involve. The planning authorities need to be sufficiently capacitated to carry out responsibilities of a planning authority, even where certain functions like development, in respect of certain functions like development of ITPs are outsourced. Planning authorities also need to take steps to avoid development of illegal ranking facilities. And illegal ranking facilities can be anything, including just a corner in a street where a taxi association can just arrive and do what he wants to do. There were recommendations on oversight and monitoring. The role of PRE is important in performing monitoring and oversight. Basically, the Commission felt that PRE should not just, the role of PRE has been too limited in terms of its operations, and it wanted to ensure that the PRE gets more involved in oversight and monitoring. All officials assisting with monitoring and oversight of public transport need to be appropriately trained in all aspects, including in terms of dispute resolution. And then it made recommendations with respect to criminal investigation, and proposed that a dedicated and resourced unit to investigate taxi violence should be established, because it is important. And while on this point, Chair, I should just indicate that immediately that the report was released by the Commission, the Provincial Commissioner for the South African Police Services, General Mawela, took it and gave it to the taxi task team to go and work on an implementation plan. The Commission then made recommendations in terms of the contributions by municipalities, and to summarize it here, the NLTA, the National Land Transport Act, makes certain provisions for the involvement of municipalities in the regulation and management of this public transport. And the Commission is saying municipalities must step up and do their work in that space. In terms of information system, The Commission recommends a new and efficient information system accommodating upgraded OLAS and RAS is urgently required. Moreover, all routes that have been fraudulently registered need to be reversed and those involved be criminally charged. So this is going to need many arms of the law, not just us as regulators. It will need the police, it will need the courts. With respect to the National Department of Transport, it says that regulations should be developed relating to the oversight and monitoring of public transport for national application, and moreover, development of a roadmap for the subsidization of the minibus taxi type industry. So you know it's a foregone conclusion, Chair, that part of the problem with the taxi industry is that it has not been subsidized, and yet it is a carrier of, at least in the case of Gauteng, at least 70% of people going to and from work. On law enforcement agencies, it recommends the establishment of specified task team. It recommends the streamlining of the law enforcement function in public transport between the MACs for transport and community safety. Yeah, so that's the point I was making there, Chairperson. And then these are some of the steps that, so this report was presented to the Premier. Premier took it to EXCO through the MEC for Roads and Transport, and EXCO said to the MEC for Roads and Transport, go and develop an implementation plan for this report. So what we are listing there are some of the steps that have unfolded since the report was presented, and they can be just summarized as follows. There have been several initiatives pertaining to the taxi industry. You have cited some of them, Chairperson. There's been a taxi Lekgotla in 2016. There was a taxi summit in 2019. There was a national taxi in Thaba only late last year. We have had this commission. This commission was a product of the taxi summit in 2019, and this commission has come up with several recommendations. We have submitted this report, presented it to the taxi industry. We have presented it to the public through the media. It is a public report. It is available on the website. And as a department, we have set up a team of senior managers. The colleagues that site are part of the team that is intended to develop this implementation plan. And the implementation plan that we are doing, which is an internal document, is divided into the various role players. So the recommendations to do with the regulation, the regulatory entity, have been implemented through the unit headed by Ms. Smith. Those to do with the operating licenses, those to do with registration, each of those are allocated to the individual units. And the idea, ultimately, Chairperson, is to make sure that the recommendations don't gather dust, but they get implemented. Thank you very much, Chair. I hope I didn't do injustice to the report.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, HOD, for the report. I hope our petitioners will have picked up on areas where they thought it might be related to the issues that they will have raised through the petitions that they submitted with us. But of course, we'll then allow for petitioners to also engage the report and raise whichever issues that they think might not have been addressed, either by the Commission or the report, so that those are recorded. And I suppose the HOD that in the development of the implementation plan, there would then be a point where you interface with all necessary stakeholders, so that it's a much more inclusive plan, which is reflective of the feel of the industry, so that you don't have a plan which is a miss of what is sought, as part of the interventions coming from the industry itself. So I I then would want to invite, and maybe we might just have to structure it, because there are 6 petitioners, and I suppose with each of the group of petitioners, you will have the head of the delegation, because I dread that if we say all of you speak, but of course not necessarily to say that we are barring anybody from speaking, but I would prefer that we be led by the delegation of the groups of petitioners who are here. But of course, if we hadn't organized ourselves in that fashion, then we'll take hands of those that might want to speak. My approach will be the following, so that we don't cluster issues and are fragmented in our arrangement. Earlier on, we mentioned that there are 6 groups of petitioners. So I want to start with the first. I want to start with Bondade Joseph. Bondade Joseph, are they here? Eliabu Skill Part Funding. You are here? Yeah. I want to start with you to raise your inputs or make commentary or even ask questions on specifics, whether raised in the report or not raised in the report, so long as that will have been what you will have submitted through your petition. And then we'll move on to the next. Meanwhile, HOD will request that yourself as well as the officials know. And then cumulatively we can then respond to all of the issues. So I think we'll structure it that way. But in between the members, I empowered them to just alert me should they be of the view that there might be 1 or 2 issues that you might want to raise. So that will also guide. But I'm going to request them that to chair this part of the session. But we must also empower you to speak in any language. Okay? You can raise whatever that you want to raise in any language. Because I know language might often be, a barrier. So we don't want that to be the case here. So that is why I want to hand over to Ntate Tulani Ndlovu. He has got a good command of language, indigenous language, which happens to be Zulu. Naga Mutswana. Mutswana Mubedi. And as I read out the surnames, I realized that I'm Kwanazi. Yeah. So maybe I can speak on Muima and then Moekwa, it would be easier. So please assist me in that Ndlovu in chairing this session. So it's a Q&A session, if you will, with inputs as well as other commentaries. So thank you very much.
Siyabonga sihlalo. Ngeke ngisamosha isikhathi njengoba bese uyiqalile okwami ukuqhubekisela phambili. Bese upointile the first group to speak, or the first leader representing a group to speak. And then uthi abo babu Joseph. And then ngoba siya recorda ngizothanda nje mabaqala ukukhuluma basho futhi ukuthi no thina sibuya kule association, so that whoever that is capturing for us is also able to say from this association these were issues that were raised. And then abazolandela igroup yobesithuba prepare nabo sizoqhubeka kanjalo until sifike groupini ye6, and then bese sinikeza department ibisiyasiphendula. Singaqala ke Baba Joseph. Thank you.
Kyalabuwa. Hasendate Joseph, unfortunately, that Joseph urutlogetse last year, so that is why I could learn.
May his soul rest in peace. Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. Nageletlono Loranamani from Central Top 11, Texas Association. Bondate Joseph bangwetse a petition the unfair treatment. Yeah, the department. Lebaka Eling. The reason was the department recognized another association, which is Simunye. That association Nemejite Leruna illegally. Well, we went to the High Court. I believe the department and the MEC and the HOD, they are aware of that because Ilarawa emailed the court order to take us back to operation because since it stopped, we were operate to 2015. Now, the commission, we made submissions on the interim recommendations. Number 3, Ibuaka, the merger. The merger, along with the Department of Transport, Gauteng, says, Batla deregister Simunye. Because the association can other of our members, Kamurengeng, nobody was arrested. So, yeah, question and clarity, if I may say. If the department, because it's written on the recommendation, bio deregister Simunye, because the very same way by the register in Central Top 11 2015, but the register without reasons, the Batlisama Podisa, Matrafiki, parents, Kamurengeng. We've never operated from 2015. An action plan in our case because there's a court order, there's everything, the recommendations, the thing. And now an action plan for that association, it's like a more ranking. It register, and if it register, maybe have I clarify or have I emphasized that too much? Hey, the register, buying the operating license like Runabari or one with the register and then still in the operational. Another thing, because we have never recognized both Department of Transport, provincial level, and municipal. There's an element of corruption that we know and we are very much aware of it. The operating licenses are more than 5 years apply. Even today, we don't have operating licenses, and as a result, our members are blacklisted. Some because of the lack of incompetency from the department, in the Department of Transport, municipal, to be specific. So, how long does it take for an operating license to be issued to want to apply? Because all the legal documentations were submitted. We've never been recognized.
Thank you very much, Litlokhonolo.
Can I just quickly check, Chair, before we move on to the next group, is whether on the issue of a skill plant fountain, and this is to the petitioners, whether the department has interacted with yourselves as part of this commission. And I'm raising this because I'm not all too aware, HOD. What was the structure and the form of license between the commission and the stakeholders who was represented in the commission? So I just wanted to check with the petitioners whether at any point would they have interacted with the department through the commission. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks. The next group speaker, please try and cover that because it's important for us. It's also here somewhere in the report whether when the commission mayenza umsebenzi wayo yakhuluma nani na. Were you interviewed by anyone in the department as part of the commission's work? It's important that the next speaker makakhuluma azamuke cover leyo answer so that singayibuzi maniqede. Second group, thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. I am Solimwima from New Yesterdays, representing the community of Yesterdays and multiple organized formations in that community. I am with my colleague, Usesi Caroline Hlongwane here. Our service taxi transport service providers are Stengwater Yesterdays Taxi Association, SETA, Hamukoni, Hamaskral Taxi, and Yesterdays Taxi Association. They call it Gesta, and we have Solta. So Shanguve, long and local distance taxi associations. Those are our service providers. Chairperson, most of we wouldn't like to take much time because we have gone through the report. We held several meetings. The report was sent to us on the 16th of March. We held 2 meetings discussing this thing with various formations, and unfortunately we couldn't go to public meetings, larger public meetings, due to these COVID things. Yes, the department did not interact with us during the sessions of the commission, nor did they inform us of the existence of such commission of inquiry. We only learn about this commission of inquiry in the media, the print media in particular, to be specifically. And we did wanted to attend, but because most of the sittings of the commission were held under the strict conditions of COVID-19, we couldn't also meet in fear because our people were also gripped by fear of COVID. We tried 3 meetings and local meetings with various formations, and they didn't succeed, and we left it there. But the department really never conducted us and never informed us. We learned it through the media. And I think this standing committee must also draw conclusion out of that why the department did not contact the petitioners in that regard. I think that is a good question. Let me go back to the report. I'm going to be very, very, very brief, but most of the things that we came across the report are representing what we have submitted in our petition. Let me start with the issues of the issue on legislative framework. As the community, we are aggrieved with the omission, whether it's deliberate or not, we don't know. There are other pieces of legislation, let me say acts, that have been promulgated which provide for the establishment of community structures such as community policing forum, school governing bodies, and other structures like ward committees. There are other laws that provide for the establishment, like Municipal Systems Act, Municipal Structures Act, for the establishment of ward committees. South African Police Service Act, and even the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa gives provision for the establishment of community policing forum. South African Schools Act give provision for a community-centered structure such as school governing bodies. But the Land Transport Act, and according to what I read from the legal framework of the report by the Commission, there is no way that the formation of community transport forum is encouraged. Therefore, we recommend that the establishment of community transport forum must be statutarized. They must be statutarized to assist in safeguarding the interest of the community in the transport industry, providing oversight on that other issues that have been indicated in the report, somewhere in the report there. One is the Commission couldn't find, they call it Ama Kwapeni or Aboma Kwapeni, something like that. The officials who have taxis, but they are not registered in their names. They are registered in the names of their next of kin or their families. The Commission couldn't certainly find that. But if we have community transport forums, they will assist, because in all the townships and in all the communities, we know each other. We know each other. We cannot be treated as communities as if we do not know each other, who we are in that community. The other issue that we would like to be integrated into the recommendation is the issue of transport service ombuds. Why is it that such an essential service in our community does not have a transport ombuds, where the community can go and complain if the service provider fails, if the government takes time to respond? Our petition to the department was submitted around June 2017. To date, we have not received anything written from the department in terms of resolution of our grievances as the community. In our petition, we have cited the vehicles, illegal vehicles of foreign operators or taxi owners that invaded our community and encroaching on the routes of other taxis. We have also cited the vehicles that were heavily armed that were traveling in those routes in our community. And we requested the department to provide us with information and what are they doing with those vehicles. To date, we have not received anything. It's now 4 years. It's now 4 years. If there was an office of ombuds, we could have gone there and the office of the ombuds could have provided one, corrective measures, ordered corrective measures. And if those corrective measures are not complied with, the ombuds could have penalized. It's because people are not being penalized, including our own officials. Yes, including our own officials. I've got the minutes here of the last report when we were at the legislature, when it was represented by the acting director, Mr. Dlamini. He said he left that issue to the taxi associations. The issues that we raised, and there were 2 or 3 meetings, according to the report, that were given to that our matter were referred to the associations, we view that as dereliction of responsibility and duties. We cannot come to you and say we have this problem and you refer back that problem to the association where we have a problem. And you have 2-3 meetings with them, but nothing comes forth. To date, it's now 4 years. Since 2017. It's almost 4 years. So we recommend also the Ombuds Chairperson, Honorable Chairperson. That is the second recommendation. And then the other recommendation that we need, there is a recent court order that was obtained by the MEC. That court order is very much important to us. And it is not cited in the report. Nowhere in the report have it been cited. The report on collection, the court order, the High Court order on collection of monies by the taxi associations. We would like that, in short, we would like that to be integrated, with recommendation number 3 in page 65. If you see that recommendation there, we would like that court order to be integrated as part of a resolution, recommendation number 3 in page 65. The last recommendation that we would like to make. We make recommendations because we know the officials, when they get the report, they look at the recommendations. We don't want to dilly-dally. On subsidization of the taxi industry, we recommend that the MEC establish a taxi subsidization investigation and research task team on this matter. The report is dealing with that matter, but it is not. It has touched that matter. It has just touched and passed it, and show how difficult it is. But we recommend that a task team on that be established to investigate and make some research and recommendation, because we cannot, we as the community, we cannot, this industry, our industry, is left without being subsidized. We cannot, when the Welgemoed Commission that you have mentioned, Chairperson, made some recommendation, it was protecting particular interest. So we are saying we must also protect the interest of the majority here. And protecting the interest of the majority, that is integral. And economic upliftment of Africans, particularly black Africans, as disadvantaged by part of the recommendation of Welgemoed Commission. We cannot reverse the damage done by the some of the recommendation of the Welgemoed Commission if we don't subsidize the taxi industry, and it is not impossible. I think, Chairperson, from our point of view on a recommendation, we will end there and ask two questions. One, why is the Commission not highlighting the impact of Uber, Taxify, and meter taxi on the minibus taxi in terms of market competition on other operation at other operational levels? Has there ever been an interoperational level violence or what? Because nowhere in the report is that cited. So I am asking. The last question. I sit down, the chairperson. The last question, they say taxi industry conveys more than 75% of public transport users countrywide. That is on page 7 of the report. And they say, they don't say anything about the 75% transport industry that convey people, that it should be subsidized. They don't say 75%. My question is, before I deal, I don't want to deal in that. I want only to question, where is that coming from? What is the authoritative source of that 75%? Has that been researched? Where does it come from? Thank you, Chairperson.
Yes, bonga kakhulu baba for that. Ngiyethemba ukuthi department is noting all these things because as I said, we'll take the 6 groups, then we'll respond after. So ngiya groupini yesithathu.
Yeah, Chair, maybe if I could
Thank you.
Coming through you. Yes. There's just 1 or 2 things. I want us to be mindful of time. That's the first thing. I know there would be a temptation to want to ventilate. You know, it comes natural. But let's be specific. And that Muyima spoke very well at length. The second thing is that Muyima, we, as I will have cautioned earlier, we are restricted to what you will have raised in your petition. I dread that if we allow an instance where we import other issues other than those that will have been raised in the petition, we might derail, you know, our meeting. Possibly at an appropriate time, HOD, you might want to create a platform where you engage with all stakeholders around the outcome of the commission so that they can also sponsor other issues that might not be featured there. But unfortunately, this hearing is not one such a platform because what we are dealing with is born out of the petitions that you will have submitted. So the issues around the Uber might not necessarily have been part of what you will have raised. You know, the issues around subsidization might also not have been a feature of those. And that is not to derogate their importance, quite important. But for the fact that they were not raised in the petition also limits our engagement with the department, because when we receive your petition, we refer to the department. Right? You must give us a responses on these matters. And we're going to hold you accountable on these matters. So it might be a bit unfair if at this session we now say to the department, respond to even things that we will not have raised with yourselves previous. So I thought let's caution so that we are structured. But then there seems to be some agreement by the HOD, because he notes that they might want to look at creating a platform so that they can, be able to engage you on all other extraneous matters. So thank you very much.
Siyabonga sihlalo. Angifuna ukuyimosha njengoba usihlalo bekasekayibekile. It's what I was going to request to the third group and moving forward, that as chair opened makavula ucela ukuthi singaletha ama issues amasha, because njengoba sibize lo mhlangano sobize based on what was given to us before, so which means the report is also speaking to exactly just that. So as a solution, isisombululo, maybe moving forward, it's important that the department arranges you at another platform so that you are then able to can ventilate other matters. But for this engagement, let's focus on what was in the petitions. Ngicela group yesithathu. Thank you. Baba, Ngwenya.
Sanibonani. Ngibulise Chairperson and other parliamentary members and also the office lika baba uSojana. Ngiyabonga kakhulu ukuthola ithuba lokuthi ngibe khona. Chairperson, we launched a petition in 2018 siwumphakathi wasekuruleni ngenxa yempi yezonke izizwe tax associations. Impi yezonke izizwe tax associations is an internal fight. No other external association was involved. The Department of Transport and DRT Office Gababu Sojana and the municipality were intervening for consultation to try and resolve the internal conflict. Chairperson, angizu ukuthi ngibale izinto eziningi engifuna ukusho. I-department indicate ukuthi zonke izizwe tax association was registered in the province, is conditionally registered with the department, with also the number of 11 permits. The operators, taxi owners, vote chairperson for deregistration of the tax associations. And the TULEP office, Mr. Bongani Macheke, and the municipality officer Beki Ngomezulu, they take the report to Derek Masugu office of the PRI to make their own recommendation in terms of the registration of that particular tax association, as per request of the members of the association, due of Babefa and the Bafa, nalaba chairperson ababevotile sebafile, noayebabulala naye bambulala. Today izonke izizwe tax association asiyazi siwumphakathi ukuthi i-operator ngaphansi kwamaphi amandla. Yingakho saze sathumela i-petition to your offices in the legislature ukuthi sizani ngoba abantu bayabulawa. Also the commuters are from the community but utshulwa erenkeni. And the law enforcement never assist in terms of trying to calm down the situation within the taxi rank until the operators hired Ingwenyama security to protect the taxi rank. And the municipality never do anything, even to close the taxi rank to operate. Was operating normally as nothing happened on the taxi rank. So, umphakathi wasekuruleni, they support that, signing the petition, ukuthi i-department mayisize kuqedwe izonke izizwe as the members request from the department ukuthi iqedwe izonke izizwe. Until today, it's never happened. The number of people all are gone, but not a flat away. We died. I pause there. Lastly, the question, if the association is registered under conditionally, if it's in a challenge, we are going to win.
Asibonge Mdimande. Chair, do you have anything to say?
No, I think I'm okay, unless if other members.
Thank you very much. Bengicela siye groupini yesine. Thank you.
Dumelang. Hello. The guy, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Kiema Mona, Kiemezi, Mokhatawai, KDM, Elukopanandi, Kilamakauta. Association here, Aguna in a light out Ramo, Park City, the border and Zalisutu, then Casilimosa 2011, Ola Fitantate, Lamini. I feel like disqualified association here, Una Ari, Risebetela Association, Ebizwan Jofeld. I rematch. Then Raga Hanana Yona Thaba Eco. Radeka, who can a department in Zergafela, Kavaka to Fitela Moholo Namon. Then you are going to inquire to a quarter in Pitorian. I refit a thing, what I recould to measure. Then I want that I among all of rematch. From 2019, Rabetes among all of Recopa place second very major, almost 11 years of association, a register going similar. Well, I go in the Mona, Recopa, two so now. One that ever got on now, or Uquella now, or Ganeti, he should Musevitu Arona. He flew Musevitu Arona. And in 2 years, I really like a market to one daddy. Ila regana go ukaton with your verdict. Association ya gona ila ya kwala state taxes a day. But in association like America go panelona till today in the sebetsa. Ke ka ho ha re kenya kobo ka mona ha kutwa ha re kenya kobo ka mona ha kutwa ha. Jwale ne re kopa re mmuso wa rona ko re meka mo. Ba ka nete bonta te re likile o kena ka hohle ga hohle bonta tso jale ba tseba re swere di meeting tse more than 20 le bona re kopa hore kumpe ho tswelise ntwena o twang ke o meja the association but ha ka ba ya twa etsa until today association yo ya sebetsa batho ntwe bohloka association yo twa re meje yona ha e sebetse ka renkeng ina le private renke ya teng rona re ntshitswe ka renke ya mmuso. Ke selo sa gona se bontate se re tliste mona jwale ne re kopa haebe mmuso wa sebeletsa kaofela association eo ha e kwa e kwalo le yona e eme jwalo ka rona hore re kgona ho dula fatshe le bona re lokise taba tsa rona. Ke a leboha.
Leboha haholo ntate. Singasamoshi isikhathi siye groupini yesihlanu. The 5th group, please. Thank you.
Sanbona. Mina, we are from Epoch Complex Association. Nati we were registered in 2010. La be department was pokelela with the image and the Mainland Tax Association. Imaging didn't take place, and then by the report, the department said we have merged, and then Epoch Tax Association members abangas one merge bapumili babafaka petitions. So we went through my courts, from courts end up as a petitions committee. So we led makuthiwa kune commission ye taxi violence. So we went there in January 2020 before the lockdown, and then we sa testify, and then where's lockdown? After lockdown, sa buyela futhi ngo June, and then we laid our story. So I report iti Ipochkop was unfairly treated. So the recommendation it is buyela emsebenzini. Kodwa ukufika namhlanje sikabuyela emsebenzini. Sile kuma office we board ePitori sithi bacela ukubuyela emsebenzini bas refer back ku Department of Transport eJohannesburg. Lana kuthiwa kufanele sikhulume noMr Dlamini. Sikhulume noMr Dlamini during December holidays was thembiswa ukuthi ngipheni 30 working days. By January ngizobe ngibuyela emsebenzini. SePitori ku Mr Nkadimeng uthi usibuyela kuBaba Dlamini. Dlamini sikhulume naye ugcina asirefera ku date yanamhlanje ukuthi namhlanje sizwazi ukuthi sibuyela emsebenzini. So besicela ku department ukuthi ke singathi this particular commission bokudlala ukuchitha isikhathi ngoba thina sihleza sisebenza sina more than 10 years asisebenzi, and then siloku siya ku department basithembisa bathi nehambana emsebenzini kodwa amaphepha operating license ukuthi usebenza basilungisela wona. So asazi ukuthi what was the meaning of this particular commission nokuthi sizokwenzani lana futhi ngoba indaba yethu dala yakhulunywa kodwa sisahleza sisebenzi. So besicela ukuthi namhlanje masiphuma lana ngoba I-report ifundwa yi-Department of Transport ayifundwa yithi. I-Commission of Inquiry yenziwa yi-Department of Transport ayenzwanga yithi. Nalama operating license la besiwasebenzisa batha fraudulent besiwathola yi-department. So kusho le department idlala ngathi. So siyacela namhlanje ukuthi ke singaphumi lana ngasitshela ukuthi usebenza nini. O else sizoya sosebenza ngoba I-report ithi sosebenza. Siyasosebenza nina nisalungisa amaphepha thina sisebenza. Besicela ukuthi department isincede masiphuma lana basitshela ukuthi yini nisosebenza. Siyabonga.
Siyabonga. Before unikeze omunye mic, did the commission speak to you when it was doing its work? I forgot to ask also the third group because the first and second group were not consulted.
Sikhulumile nabo.
Thank you. Ngicela nje ungibuyiselele kule ubaba we third group just to answer that question for us. So the commission did meet with them. So just to get that from the third group, please, before we go to the fifth group, sixth group.
The sixth.
Yes, before we go to the sixth group.
Okay, I never been contacted.
Asibonge mtimande. Hona lentate mani.
Ohanda esalenteke yemele kajeno awuna report awuna next ndati.
Okay, lentate abababona ho hang. Okay, thank you very much. Can I request the last group number 6?
According to a report in Ibalwake HOD, I think we mentioned 3 types of operators in the taxi industry, which if I recap, it will be those operators with permits, and number 2, those operators with permits and then they do twins. And then the last one will be the operators without permits. Chairperson, I think one type of the operators, as I mentioned, one HOD, will be those operators without permits at all, but they are running the association. They are part of the leadership, the association. Through you, Chairperson, Ndate Sojani, Ndate Peter Dlamini reports to you. ne ke batla clarity fela.
So it's a quick clarity. Ntate Sojane ko mofela? Okay. So maybe let's quickly respond.
Just on that one, so
Yeah,
that
because I think
actually
it might be
Peter
the
Khonobutsi.
context for
Yes.
a commentary. So maybe let's not deny him that opportunity.
Oh, okay, Chair. I thought I was going to respond later. Can I request that he repeat the question?
Who does Dlamini report to? Where does he report
Okay.
to? Berga guy.
Ntate Dlamini reports to me as the Director in Registration and Monitoring. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
We
clear,
can
Chairperson.
proceed in that.
Yeah, because I'm mentioning this point because, Chairperson, on a repetition, we've been complaining from 2016. Fortunate enough, 2018, through Mr. Ngola tried to intervene. Still, they failed. I'm saying to you, Chairperson, until today, we are still having a leadership in our association. People who are running the association, but they are not members of the association because they are powerful. And we are not getting any help from the two offices, which is the pre and the registration office.
Thank you very much, Chair. That was the last submission from the last group. I don't know if you can take back your meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Babondro, for stepping in. I think that really assisted. Because you know when you are chairing and have to listen, often at times it becomes a bit onerous. So that is why I would have suggested that you chair that part of the session. I just want to quickly find out from Ndate Moef whether you were invited to the inquiry. Were you part of the inquiry? Okay, because I thought you were. I really thought you were a part of the inquiry, but it's not a train smash. Yeah, it's quite a number of issues. So I wanted to, HOD, before we hand over to you to respond. There's just one or two issues, and then maybe members might also want to come in. Is that, geez, where is this thing now? Yeah, there's a mention of a number of cases, court cases. And I can imagine when there's a judgment, which calls upon the department to perform specific tasks. That should be the case, unless if it's a private matter between parties. I'm not all too privy around the nature of those specific cases. But on one or two of the presentations by the petitioners, they make mention of those cases. So I thought maybe if we can be taken into confidence about those things. I'm also just worried about, so it creates, it compounds. So Ndate Moesha might have missed the part where you gave the three different groups of operators. In fact, you did mention that there's another one that is not a license, but they are just operating. You know, they're actually in charge of associations. But then the foreign operators, I'm not sure where that falls in. Because they are not only just not licensed, but there's another element, a very peculiar arrangement to it, which I think compounds, the three categorization of the operator. So I thought we might also want to reflect on that. You know, I want to be quite frank. There's a many person. I hope he was here. Because on a number of occasions, there has been, lamentations about Dlamini. Quite a number. In fact, at some point, I met with you in that with the MEC, if I'm not mistaken. It was yourself. I remember that day we met about 4 groups of petitioners who ultimately their petitions were resolved. All of them decrying the same person. Decrying the same person. So there's something we're not understanding. And I would have hoped that this person was, present in the hearing so that he could respond to some of the things that are happening that are attributable to him. You see? So please, let's zoom in into the Dlamini phenomenon, because we're not understanding as the committee. Why is it that every second petition that relates to the taxi industry makes mention of Dlamini and how problematic he is? Because if that is not the case, at some point they will be forced to subpoena him. He'll be forced to appear alone to come and respond to all of these issues. But then the National Land Transportation Act, that Muhima speaks to it. And this is the sense that I also get. Is it being fully implemented? Because it's a piece of legislation that is there, which attempts, to introduce a new interventions as well as measures. For instance, empowering municipalities to play a specific role, but we don't get a sense that municipalities are playing that role effectively and efficiently. So we're wondering what could be the root causes. Is it capacitation related matters? Has they been trained? Has there been somewhat of a coordinated program towards assisting municipalities to bring into application that specific, a piece of legislation? Because it seems to be also the bone of contention, including as related to what is contained in the Act around the issuance of licenses as well as the allocation of routes. And then I also wanted to check, because much as it's the province now that facilitates over the process around route allocation, maybe part of the implementation plan, and without necessarily presupposing the thought process, the issue around the advisory boards. Do we have the advisory boards in place to really try to fathom? Because if you were to leave it to the individual units directorate, they have to deal with policy-related matters in addition to some of these practical matters. So there's quite a number of things that, as this committee will have wanted to suggest, but maybe we'll do that at a stage where you have developed a draft of the implementation plan, so that we also come on board through the portfolio committee on roads. And so here's the chairperson. So fortunately in the petitions committee, Chair, we're making an appeal that as you monitor progress around the development of the implementation plan, will be brought on board, because we've got 1 or 2 suggestions or recommendations that we think, as the committee, having dealt with taxi-related matters, we could sponsor. So we've got the chairperson of the portfolio committee on roads and transport, newly appointed. His name is Honorable Greg Sneeman, very passionate about this line of work. So it will make our lives easier to monitor and track. But I want to request that Ndata Moesha, Lindate Maela, and others, when you have submitted with us the petition, and we have called the department, we have interacted, if you are not finding joy Well, I suppose there will always be room for you to be inventive, but you must come back to us. There's a specific reason why you must come back to us. We are imbued with all the powers to call anybody at any given time. So when you have interacted with the department once and you are not coming back to us to give us feedback, we don't know where you are. We might assume that your issues are resolved. And this is what I'm picking up. So you then really would need to come back to us so that we reconvene the department or explain yourselves. You made certain commitments. Why is it that certain things have not been done? So I wanted to make that appeal. But without wasting any further time, let me check with members whether there's any inputs that they might want to make quickly so that we allow the department to. I know that the HOD is supposed to leave. But we're just going to request the HOD that we finalize first, and then we have a proper way forward around how we are going to deal about some of the issues that are rising. My sense is that the department might not be able to immediately respond to all the questions. So we might want to give them a bit of time so that they go and think about some of the issues that the commission might have missed. And then you will, at an agreed time, give us a report on all of these 6 petitions that have been raised, including a follow-up on some of those that you will have already agreed that there are challenges, such as the Boschkop one and so on. So let me check with members. That the Chabalala have noted you. That the Mabunda, you want to come in? Babundro, you want to come in or are you fine? Oh, Mama Ludwaba, yes, you also want to come in? Who else members so that I don't miss anyone? Member Ludwaba, you also want to come in? Or you want to come in after the department? Okay, it's okay. So maybe let's start with a member Chabalala and then member Mabunda will follow.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I think the petitioners have addressed, they've raised the issues, but just want to check from the department. With regards to the key recommendations of the commission, when is the department going to implement them? Have they started? What is the process? Basically, to check with regards, because I think if they can implement these recommendations, I think half the problems will be solved. So I just needed to check with the department with regards to implementation of these recommendations. How far are they? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Chabalala. Member Mabunda.
No, thanks, Chair. I think Member Chabalala has covered my first question with regards to the implementation plan for these recommendations. I would have thought by now the department have already finalized the implementation plan, but maybe they can assist us in terms of when will it be ready so that petitioners as well get an understanding that some of the recommendations that affect them will be part of the implementation plan. And secondly, it's with regards to those that were not consulted by the commission's work. I think the department will assist in terms of what were the mechanism used, who was consulted, and what could have happened that some were left out into participating in the work or the very important work of the commission, because surely the recommendations of the commissions, it's a watershed. They bring into surface some of the issues that have been a challenge in the taxi industry business. The third, it's with regards to
the community transport forums and the transport service ombuds, which I suppose are suggestions that are made to the department. Maybe the department will, at the appropriate time, look into establishing these structures. Is it practically feasible? But the community transport forum, I think it involves no cost. I don't see it being a problem for the department to implement it. But the transport service ombuds, it should be part of, or it can only be established through legislation, which might be a little challenge for the department. And I think the fourth one as well, it is a suggestion that the MEC establish a taxi subsidy research team or task team that could look into how the taxi industry could be subsidized. And this has been an ongoing request that was made to the department. Surely by now, the department should have an idea of when are they going to subsidize the taxi industry, as it seemed to be one of the primary causes of the conflict within the taxi industry. But lastly, Chair, I think you've spoken so eloquent about it, but the department, and I suppose the department should also have noted, or they are aware of the Dlamini person. It has been an ongoing problems in the Gauteng province, this Dlamini person. Surely whoever Mr. Dlamini is reporting to will either take note or go and set up an investigating mechanism to find out actually what is happening there. Whether he is simply implementing what is being told, or what is it that is the primary cause of this dissent within the department on him as a person, because I don't think it's correct that you've got petitions that cry foul of an individual rather than crying foul of the policy of the department. I think that's something that HOD, I will hope that you take it upon yourself to make sure that you find out what is it that Mr. Dlamini is doing, what are the causes of all these challenges, so that at least you either beef up his work or beef up his department, so that it alleviates this notion that it's Mr. Dlamini who's doing whatever it's done. Whether correct or incorrect, but surely you can't have a situation where everything good or bad is attributed to an individual within the bigger department of the Roads and Transport Department. Thanks, Chair.
No, thank you very much, Member Mabunda. And that is not without casting aspersions on Ndade Dlamini. We don't know him. For all we know, he could be doing his work and people might be aggrieved. So we really want to get a sense of what are some of his formulations in respect of some of the accusations. And then on the issue around subsidies, in fact, there has been extensive research commissioned by a number of interested groups. I know one of them was around the establishment of a transport bank to try to capitalize, the taxi industry itself. So, but one of those considerations as well. Honorable Ledwaba.
Thank you very much, Chair. I will stand because I'm at the same level with the mic. Thank you very much. The most important thing that I wanted to speak to is that the communication between the petitioners and the department is very key, because we all know that the taxi industry, it's not just an industry that you can just undermine. And we also need the people of the associations to speak amongst themselves because they're doing one thing, and the worst thing is that somebody said there is people who are leading an association that are not even registered. I think the department must do something about it. And Chairperson, I'm appealing that all those members of the taxi industry that doesn't want to comply, they must be brought to book because they're not above the law. They must do what they're supposed to do because there is a statute that is before them. There is a law that is before them. So it's not just nilly-willy. They can't do what they wish. And the Lamini person, I think, I feel very strong that we must definitely speak to that person, HOD, so that we must know the gist of the matter, because we can't say there's nothing that he's doing or somebody is saying something that that they're not supposed to say. We must investigate what is going on. If there's something wrong that is going on, he must be also brought to book. Thank you very much, Chair.
So those are all the inputs from members. HOD, let's hand over to yourselves to quickly respond to all of those things. But the manner in which I want us to do it, so I'm not just responding passively. Where we don't have answers, I want us to agree on a process. Because that is crucial. And the chairperson of Roads and Transport is here. They will assist us to play oversight over all of these issues. Because the portfolio committee on Roads and Transport is actually best suited to follow up. Particularly because all the issues that have been released as related to transport fall within the ambit of their scope of work. You know, Petitions Committee, it's a jack of all trades. But we're really trying to have some level of a specialty around how we do that. And the best way to do that is by referring to appropriate committees, at least on the agreed process. So over to you, HOD.
I was going to ask to speak first or release, but I think I'll defer to you that we should seek to finish. So I'm going to ask my colleagues. So there are issues that I'll ask Ms. Lebo-Smith, the chairperson of the PRE, to talk to. Part of those would be informational. Basically, there are questions like just how long should an operating license be temporary, those kinds of things. So those regulatory aspects I'm going to ask her to respond to. Then I'll ask Ms. Dube to respond to issues within her space of work. And then, of course, the majority of these have to do with monitoring, and that's Mr. Sojani's area. So, and then I've got 8 points of a general nature, Chair, that I'll then talk to at the end, if that's fine by you.
I really want to be fair to you, because you had indicated this to me even yesterday. So I wouldn't want to prejudice you, particularly because there is an exco, where the department is also presenting a report. So in a discussion that I had with the MEC was that would release you in time.
Okay.
So depending on your preference, you can either start,
okay,
but then you must then assure us that those that you are leaving behind are also qualified to take decisions, at least on the process.
They are qualified.
Okay.
They are qualified.
It's okay. So maybe we can start with you.
Let me go through the ones. So is it Mr. Mwe? Okay, I didn't quite capture the names. But the point on a community transport forum is is well received and is taken. Obviously, it might, as he pointed out, it might require legislative innovation, but it's a point that we take and will seek to act on. The point on the transport services ombud is in the report. It's recommended. It is a point that we have accepted as a department and will be acting out on that one. There are concerns about whether the Commission interacted with or communicated with or invited people to make presentations. Unfortunately, it couldn't do that with everyone. Now, just a quick background bit. So, our attitude the moment the Premier appointed the Commission was that we would allow it space, leverage, leeway to do the work without our disruption. You'll see, Chair, the Commission was very critical of us. It is something that we went into this process knowing already that we are not smelling of roses. So that is why, in as much as the work of the Commission falls almost squarely within the areas of work of the three key officials that I've cited to please respond, they did not have a role in the secretariat function of the Commission because we didn't want to prejudice the outcome. So we created the necessary administrative capacity of the Commission outside of the department. In its report, you'll see right at the introduction, the Commission says that it was not able to meet all the associations that had made submissions to come forward and be involved. Now, that process, we would like to think, is not a lost cause completely, because we think that be it through the transport service ombud or any other process, we should still be able to interact with the associations and other stakeholders that were not able to make their submissions to the Commission. While on the point, and I want to make to address the last point that Member Letsoalo had made, that we are continuously interacting with the Commission, with the associations, and to some extent with communities. So on almost a daily basis, the MEC processes complaints and that kind of thing. Those that are of an administrative nature that we can attend to, are given to us and we attend to them. But I need to make this, without throwing aspersions on anyone, the taxi industry had been a neglected area of work for the department for the longest time. Not that there was no administrative work happening, but I think the industry itself, the associations, would admit and accept that it has been better profiled now than had been the case on previous administrations. There's a point made about the court order. I hope that my opening statement answers this, and it is that the Commission, much as it was a Commission supported administratively and otherwise by the department, it was for all intents and purposes an independent commission. So some of the work that was happening in the department parallel to the work of the Commission could not have gone into the final report of the Commission. And indeed, that court order is about the collection of monies by certain association leaders. But in the ultimate end, it was primarily intended to empower the MEC to take action against associations that operate, that do illegal things. For example, there are several associations, Mata in Mamelodi, Wata, Nandue, several associations in the province that in the context of that court order, the MEC was able to place under administration because, and this is our theory. Our theory is that they collect those monies and they use those monies to pay Inkabi to perpetuate violence within the industry. And so the court order is a small step towards trying to curb violence in the taxi industry. there's a point made about the impact of challenges of e-hailing and the meter taxis, and I think it doesn't come out strongly, and the answer, the magic wand, is in the naming of the commission chair. It is a commission of inquiry into violence within the minibus taxi type industry in Gauteng. That's what then the chairperson and his assessors and other commissioners restricted themselves to. But yes, and just as a direct question to that, has there been interoperational violence? Phosphorus is a case in point, especially during levels 3, 4, and 5 of COVID, when the numbers of commuters was reduced, where you had either meter taxis or e-hailing services encroaching into the space of the minibus type taxi, and people were shot at. I think 1 or 2 were actually killed. We had a similar situation in Atteridgeville, where minibus taxi type industry associations would confiscate the meter taxis vehicles or the e-hailing vehicles when they operate in their routes. So yes, there's been interoperational violence and tension and that kind of thing, and it's something that we have not lost sight of. Coincidentally, part of the reason why the MEC was not able to be here is because he is negotiating, mediating a violent situation between e-hailing and meter taxi and the owners of the apps. He's meeting with them today, and that's part of why, and it's a meeting that had long been said. Then there's a question about the community engagement on outcomes of the commission. It's a point that we accept, Chair, and will ensure that we agree, we attend to it. The National Land Transport Act and its implementation, we are the first ones to concede that it has not been implemented in its fullest, and that's coincidentally both Mr. Sojane and Ms. Smith are lawyers. They will be able to talk to aspects of the NLTA within their area of work, be it monitoring and oversight or regulations, where we're fallen short in terms of the implementation of the actual act. The last point that I think, Chair, I should make, yes, you know, you've made the point, Chair, that you don't want us to overstate the point about Mr. Dlamini, but it is something that we will be seized with, and we'll make sure that it is attended to. I also, over and above the point you've made, without necessarily creating excuses or any of that, I think there's a closer saying that says, "Kubeta e tsala," or something like that. It may just be that he's fairly visible, he's all over the place. And I would imagine in the process of being all over the place, you are bound to make mistakes. I would like to developmentally think about it along those lines. But there are specific issues that have been raised that are specific to its area of work, and we are going to zoom into those. Thank you, Chair, and with your permission, I would like to invite the colleagues that I've cited, and there's other colleagues like Angela who may also come in terms of the areas. Thank you.
Okay. No, thank you very much, HOD, for that. Members, there was a prior arrangement that would release the HOD as well, because of another commitment, and this was agreed to when we prepared for the hearing itself. So I did not want to disadvantage any of you, so that if there was a direct question to the HOD, you raise it before we can excuse it. But the rest of the other senior managers will be with us. So Ndadele Dwaba, is there any other person? You are covered. Ndadele Dwaba and then Honorable Letong.
Chair, thanks. Just before the HOD asked, there was a question that was asked about the process. And I thought the HOD would elaborate. Maybe let me be specific. The Commission has made recommendations. And there was a question around the implementation plan of those recommendations. Where I stand, maybe I might be corrected, is that even a recommendation is there but it's not feasible, it doesn't mean it's going to be implemented. At what time are we then going to say the recommendations are now converted into resolutions? So the recommendation is given to the Premier with the report. What are the necessary steps that the Premier has to undertake so that at some point in time we know that these have been agreed resolutions? Because not everything that is recommended might be implemented. So that is the kind of question that I thought you would elaborate on and advise everybody so that tomorrow there is no confusion that there was this recommendation. Some of them are not implementable under the current budgetary constraints and regulatory constraints. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Thaba. Member Tom.
Sorry. Oh, thank you, Chair. Sir, like through HOD, for a transformation in the taxi industry. Hona le basadi na le youth or ke bontate fela ba ileng hore ba rana this industry. Thank you.
No bomme ba ga se loke. Off the record. Off the record. So it's okay, HOD. Yeah. I think those are the questions, but I think in the final analysis is that because we are governed by the Petitions Act, and petitions that were received on our part as submitted by petitioners.
Okay.
And about to resolve it.
Yeah.
Report was all inclusive. Report was high level. Rona wa here. Kore ke matlo re ke bua le ntate mo ya tlhwa outside. Ke bua le ntate Mkhwanazi, ke bua le ntate Maela or ntate Muima. Le ba represent ntate George. This is where we are. Tse ding tse re tla di bona ke. Rona we restrict ourselves to petitions. So we are going to enlist all of these petitions, and one of the questions I was wondering is, because we have referred these petitions to the department, and you partly responded to it, or you were not as involved in the overall structure and how the commission will have dealt with the matters. Safe to say that we would want to really impress upon the department that please have a relook at all of these petitions and have a follow through, because ultimately Stone will want the report on all of them. Because remember, we report to the House on petitions that we will have received. You see? So much as we are excited about the report, we would want it to speak to the specifics of the petitions submitted with us. I guess if you can comprehend that, Chairman Sniman, we want what is relating to us. That's all. So yeah, maybe if you can respond to those two questions, and then
yes.
We should be excused.
Thank you, Chair. The colleagues are going to be specific in their responses.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course, if certain things remain fully unanswered, we can make follow-up. I apologize, Chair, to Member Letsoalo. I actually meant to talk to the process issues. We have given ourselves 3 months in which to have had an implementation plan approved by EXCO. So we have until the end of June in our own time frame. But those aspects of the report that are within our everyday operations are getting phased in. And if the committee would still have time, Ms. Angela Andrews is part of the team in the department that has been putting together the implementation plan. She will be able to talk about, because as I said, some of these issues that come out of the commission report had been picked up in the department anyway, had been picked up in the various taxi indabas, taxi mahotla, taxi summits and all of those. So they are not new. And that's the bulk of the recommendations. And then, of course, that would mean that there's been some activity that in the industry, Chair. Sadly, the majority of them are widows who inherited the business operations from husbands who have been victims of taxi violence. And you're right, they get badly treated. We had a session during August of last year with the women operators in the taxi industry, and 90% of them were widows of people that were operators. And they talked about how badly they get treated, how taxi bosses, the big guns in the taxi industry, go so far as to take over the businesses that were family businesses and that kind of thing. So it's an industry that still needs a lot of transformation. With your permission, Chair, thank you very much.
So thank you very much, HOD. Thanks for your presence, for making time, and for all the responses and taking us through the report. We will not be seeing you for the last time. So as you finalize the process around the implementation of the report, we'll expect that you also address all of these petitions. So in the fall, we'll give you 2 months so that we get an updated report. We don't want to say, I know you said 3 months for the whole of the report, but we'll give you 2 months. So 2 months from today, when would it be? So that we get an update. Is it fair, members? Yes. Should we give the department 2 months? At least to deal with these petitions and then get an update report. You can advance. It's out of my cuff. Or should we stick to the 3 months? I don't know. 2 months, 3 months?
We need that plan, Chair. If you don't have that, we need that plan. If you don't have that plan, we might come back to the same situation.
Yeah, I'm saying to get an update report, and this is pending the finalization of the plan. You see, because remember, the plan would still have to go through a rigorous process of a ratification, different structures of the provincial government. So I don't want us to wait that long. Hence, I'm proposing that at least in the 2 months, if we can get an update, maybe it's not a final report, but just an update on how far we are in respect of those specific matters. But much of it will also depend on the responses given by your team. But you may be excused, HOD. So, in essence, we're agreeable on 2 months. So, where do we start? I've got 2 of my learned friends. Very excited. So, where do we start? The soldier. Again, we're responding to all the specific, the technical questions now. As the HOD will have indicated, would be responded to by the team. So where do we start? Yeah, maybe if you can move up to these chairs, because the mics, I don't trust that roving mic. It's easier to get corona from it because you're holding it, you speak to it. So I'd rather you be safe. Remember, we're enforcers. We must also enforce COVID regulations. So if you can, you must leave. We're also going to excuse one of our members. Is catching a flight to Cape Town, which is now at 2, so you must all go home. Is the chair. So, Chair, you will have heard our intimations here. So please assist us in following up with the department, isn't it? Sure, so you may come in.
Thanks, Chair.
I don't think that is on.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yes.
on. No, one has certainly listened to the requests that you've made, but just to indicate that the Committee on Roads and Transport is putting in place a session towards the end of April, probably, for a very in-depth and detailed discussion on the Commission's report, the implementation plan, etc. And what we would probably also do is include a report back to us of how far the department is in looking and interacting with the petitioners on the petitions that have appeared before here as well, so that at least when they come back to us in this committee, there would have been other engagement as well to make sure that there's progress. Thanks.
Thank you very much, that is Numan, and may you travel safe. May you have a pleasant Easter recess. I hope you get to travel in one of our taxis in Cape Town. So, they work differently there, so there's somebody that stands by the door, takes, collects monies. Then Gauteng, the driver takes all the monies. Doesn't want an intermediary. So let's start. Let's start, we can start with you. Maybe let's start and then we'll go all the way down. On the specifics that relates to your...
Is there anything that I have to do to this mic? Is it okay?
Yes.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much. My name is Lewis Smith again, although Lina Kimutwana. I'm a chairperson of the Provincial Legislature entity. And guys, I wish you can understand that the most emotional season of my life was after the release of the Commission's report. At the same time, it was the most exciting period of my life, because issues raised by the Commission are actually in resonance with issues that we've been raising since 2011. And saying these are the issues that are actually hindering harmonious operations in the industry. So I was even clear to the MEC, saying, MEC, there are documents that are sitting in your offices where I've made submissions in terms of how we can transform the industry, starting with the reconfiguration of the PRE itself. The PRE is supposed to be a structure that oversees public transport regulations in the province. But the PRE on establishment, it was just established as an adjudication committee, a committee of 7 members who sits and adjudicate applications, and that's it. We raised issues around the legal operations of the PRE, and over the years we saw a little bit of transformation taking place. And I'm mightily excited because the Commission's report is actually going to speed up the recommendations that we've been making, implementation of those recommendations that we've been making over the years. When you look at the Commission's report, it clearly reflects weakness in the implementation of the National Land Transport Act. And that is indeed true. There is a serious weakness in implementing that particular legislation. And at some stage, I was even saying, when you look at the NLTA, it's like a law for another country, not for South Africa. At this stage and age, if you can do just a bit of audit in terms of implementation process, you can safely say the implementation of the NLTA, Chair, is probably at 30%. Because the whole 70% of issues in the NLTA are issues that seem to belong to another country, not to South Africa. This law was implemented on an environment that was not ready And that is the truth that we all must swallow. When the NLTA came into effect in 2009, it repealed all other laws that regulated public transport in the country. It repealed all other laws that regulated public transport in the province. And those pieces of legislation were helpful in regulating associations. Currently, we don't have any provisions in the law that regulates associations. And the report of the Commission is centered around the activities of the associations. It's centered around issues that exacerbate conflict in the associations. But we don't have a legislative tool that assists us in dealing with those things. Some of the recommendations of the Commission Chair are actually, for lack of a better word, disheartening. Because, and actually they gave me a clear distinction, a clear idea of a distinction between somebody who is an operational official and somebody who's just sitting and doing a sort of a clinical assessment of issues. We have, a complete whole picture of what is happening in the industry. And earlier on, I heard one of the honorable members saying, the implementation of the NOTA, of the Commission's report or recommendations will go a long way in resolving public transport conflicts. I'm sorry to say that the implementation of the Commission will also go a long way in exacerbating conflicts in our province. For example, the Commission is saying we must do away with the letter of association. And there was no in-depth investigation to find out why the letter of association. The Commission is simply basing that argument on the fact that it is not in the NLTA. But there's no provision in the NLTA that says do not receive a letter of association. In the contrary, if you look at section 57 and 62 of the NLTA, it's quite clear that there is a certain level of discretion that is conferred to the PRA. Because there's a provision in section 57 and 62 that says the PRA may request any other condition or may impose any other condition and request any other additional information or document. And if you have to assess what does that mean, what is any other document? Could it be the letter of association as well? Definitely it might be a letter of association as well. The Commission is talking about the PRA undoing joint venture operations. Do you know what is going to happen in our landscape if we start doing that? Does anybody understand the practicalities around implementing those kind of recommendations? Because the culture of JV operations, it comes from time immemorial. It was never instituted by the PRA. And there is history behind this. There are reasons behind this. How are we going to undo JV's chairperson, where associations that are JVing, that are part of the agreement, one of them is association from KZN, and another one, which is part of the agreement, is a GP association. This is bordering along interprovincial operations. The challenge that we have as the PRA chairperson is that while we're complaining about weak implementation of the National Land Transport Act, the weakest link here is the National Department of Transport. In terms of the law, you are supposed to have 3 spheres of regulatory structures. You're supposed to have the National Land Transport, the National Public Transport Regulator, NPTR, established by the law in terms of Section 21. And the functions of the NPTR is to make sure that the PREs are properly constituted. So you have PREs that have been established long before the NPTR. So it's like a child was born before a mother. And it just doesn't make sense. So the PREs were established and they were like, orphaned children. They were just put there in the department and quite clearly, even the department didn't actually understand what this whole thing is all about. So the NPTR was established at a later stage, but till today, the NPTR...
What is the NPTR? Maybe...
National Public Transport Regulator.
Okay.
We are the provincial regulator. So at national level, you have what is called the NPTR. So as I said, the NPTR is supposed to even provide standard operating procedures for the PRE, which it's not doing. The NPTR is supposed to monitor compliance with legislation at PRE level. It is not doing that. So any other monetary structure is just doing that because it's a monetary structure, but not legislated. The legislated structure is not in a position to do what it's supposed to be doing. And that's a weakness in the processes. Number two, Section 11 of the NLTA make provision for what is called MREs. MREs are municipal regulatory entities. Do we have a single MRE in this province? No, we don't have it. What does it mean? It means the PRE, which is us here, we are actually undertaking the functions of the MREs, and it's supposed to be 5 MREs. We are undertaking the functions of PRE, which is our own functions. And we are also undertaking the functions of the NPTR, which is Interprovincial Public Transport services. So until we fix all this institutional arrangement in terms of regulating public transport, we are just going to waste our time. And I'm confident to say the implementation of the taxi violence, in fact, Taxi Violence Commission recommendations will not go a long way in resolving the current public transport problems that we have. I believe with all my heart that there's always an intention behind every legislation. And the intention of the legislature in establishing these 3 levels of regulation was to make sure that each and every one of those regulators is performing their functions and is making sure that there's a coordinated public transport regulation which is monitored and which is compliant with the law. But that is not happening. And those are not the issues that the Commission went in depth in, when they are actually the most important institutional issues. I'm one of the people who were presenting at the Commission. It took me the whole 5 days to actually prepare my affidavit and eventually present it before the Commission. The issues that I'm presenting here are the very same issues that I presented before the Commission. So I'm a bit, although I'm excited, I'm also disappointed that the most important issues that the Commission was supposed to actually emphasize on, they didn't emphasize on. And operational issues which are actually dependent on institutional arrangements were actually emphasized on, and it's not helping us. So my suggestion, or actually my view is that, Chairperson, until we actually sit with the National Department of Transport, which is the overarching custodian of the NLTA, and iron out all these issues, at provincial level we find ourselves implementing only 10% of the resolutions, the recommendations of the Commission. So there are a whole lot of institutional issues that we need to deal with. And the Commission, I'm happy the Commission highlighted the issue around capacity of the PRE. Guys, if we look at what the NLTA is providing, what the NLTA calls the PRE is PREs in all provinces. But I'm sitting here in Gauteng adjudicating applications which are actually 4 times the number of applications that a chairperson in Northwest is adjudicating. I'm sitting here in Gauteng, where Gauteng is actually 26%, carrying 26% of the population of South Africa. And we're talking about 9 provinces. If it was 4 provinces, I was going to say at least we have quarter. But we have a whole 26%, of the population of Gauteng. The volume of operations in Gauteng are like in no other province. The closest province is KZN in the Western Cape and Eastern Cape, but everything is voluminous in Gauteng. So when you come up with a legislation that regulates public transport, it cannot be a one-size-fits-all when it comes to Gauteng. We will always be prejudiced in terms of capacity. We will always be prejudiced because we won't be able to have, you know, the corresponding budget that deals with, that enables us to deal with all the problems of public transport.
Maybe just to interrupt you a while, is that it would seem as if there are misgivings about the process. That is the Commission of Inquiry. And that much is evident from your intimations. But I just dread that we might be derailed if we are to speak to those, particularly in this platform. And my sense is that we would have appreciated hearing more about how petitions received on our part, as referred to the department, are being handled, other than what you are raising. And we are not necessarily derogating your assertions. I think your assertions are quite critical. But I should think that we don't want to leave here more confused. Because earlier on, when the HOD presented, the impression that would have been created is that, you know what, we're on the right path towards remedying some of the anomalies that characterizes the industry. And one might even ask a question that if we speak about the shortcomings of the NLTA, which is a piece of legislation promulgated in 2009. So there has been a passage of time between then and now, effectively meaning that transitional arrangements or institutional arrangements should at this point be in place so that we don't decry those lacunas, whereas the department, because the department is imbued with, the necessary powers to be able to put into place systems to ensure effective regulation, and that where warranted, if the system glitches remain, those could be reflected upon such that at appropriate platforms, such as your min-max, including in Parliament, they could be raised for a possible review of the legislation. You see? So I just read that we are bringing all that baggage into this hearing, and unfortunately this hearing might not necessarily be as qualified to respond to those specific misgivings, but for other platforms. So I want to request Member Smith just two things. That we stick to what will have been raised by the petitioners here. And maybe much of it might not necessarily have been a feature of the report. And that is why individually you asked whether any of the petitioners interacted with the commission. And our sense is that quite a number of them, with the exception of one, will have interacted with the commission. But these are specific issues that they will have raised. And so we are trying to fathom how the department could best deal with these specific matters, other than the high level, because what you are raising is at an elevated level. And I don't think it would assist us much if we were to ascend to that realm, because we might end up, getting off the rails which would leave everybody confused. So I strongly respect your sentiments about how the commission will have went about handling other matters. I think it's a matter that the department might want to, look, more deeply into. Possibly even share with the portfolio committee on roads and transport some of your frustrations, which are impeding your work, as you will have expressed. But we will just request your indulgence that the focus be largely on what we will have had this morning from the petitioners who are here. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that you will remember when I opened up, I will have indicated that for all intents and purposes, we deem this meeting as though it's being held in the precinct of the legislature. So the style and manner, including the conduct, particularly also the jargon or language used, it becomes quite crucial. I've noted where you say guys, because if you remember our live streaming, so it might also be confusing for our own recording. If we say guys, somebody might interpret it. So we have got honorable members, as well as respective petitioners. So I thought, well, somebody might not pick up. It might have been an oversight on your part, but I'm sure we can correct that so that we keep in abidance with the requisite language and jargon to be used. So thank you very much. I thought I should just give that guidance so that we don't take up too much time.
Okay.
My only anxiety is that if we go on and on in ventilating our reservations about the report, it might not necessarily assist the petitioners, because we want that when they leave here, even if they don't have definitive answers, but there must be some level of appreciation around how the process to resolve their petitions would be undertaken. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. My apology for the errors. I would have wished that, there were some house rules before we start. I mean, some of us, we are exposed to this process for the first time. So we are not affair with the processes. And Chair, I must say, it would have been fair if we came here knowing exactly the purpose of this exercise, because from where we are sitting, the purpose of this exercise was to deal with the Commission's report. And other issues that have been raised earlier on, which are purely operational issues, we should have been given an opportunity to prepare, in response to those issues. Because most of those issues, the real final details of those issues are in possession of our junior officials. So if there's a need, we would have, sought for necessary reports from the senior, from our junior officials. So I'm afraid that we might find ourselves, talking at cross points with what our junior officials have been doing at the ground, because we're still waiting for some reports in terms of interventions that were actually adopted in trying to resolve problems at the ground. So with all due respect, Chairperson, these issues which are operational, as I said, we were never prepared for. We all knew that we come here to deal with the Tax Violence Commission. I'm not sure how we're going to deal with that glitch. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, the only thing is that these are, and I would have thought the department would be all too aware about these petitions, because these are, some of them they were submitted as far back as 2013, some of them, if I'm not mistaken. I know the several ones that I received when I ascended office in 2019, which were Boschkorp as well as the Krugersdorp matter. So I imagine the department should be in the know about these petitions. And in our communication to the department, Ms. Banyon will have indicated that petitioners are invited. And these are specific petitioners whose petitions will have been referred to the department for processing. So I would have thought yourselves being senior managers, and I think that is how the legislature functions. When we interact with the executive, we do that through senior managers. And we will have thought all those reports were consolidated, possibly by your junior officials, and that they will have given you a thorough brief. But when we say we are not so much aware, it worries me a bit. It really worries me. Just yesterday, we sat throughout the day with the various other departments. And senior managers could account for every single petition that they stole. And you will remember, these are petitions that are with the department. And that is why we will have invited the department, because in our own formulation, we will have thought, as we journeyed to present the report, it will also speak to the petitions that were submitted with yourselves. So the last of the petition was submitted in 2019. So that's how far back, you see. So I thought you would have a greater insight on those petitions. And again, this is the impression that the MEC, the HOD will have given, including the MEC. You see. Because part of the reason why we will have called these petitioners, other than to just hear the report, was also to try to deal with their petitions. And that is why I kept on emphasizing to the HOD. HOD, ditabadi di ngata, maroda, our sole interest. Well, maybe our interest might be expansive in that it might also affect other people who might have wanted to raise similar issues. So if that is the case, it's okay. But be that as it may, our focus is really just on the 6 petitions. Because as we carry this work, we're expected to report. And the only challenge that we have is that we can't give reports that says the department was not aware. And that senior or junior officials, rather, would not have submitted reports. You see. So I'm not sure how we're going to go about it, because there are specific questions that would have been raised through this hearing, and we would have appreciated responses to them. And I'm sure you will have heard me when I said possibly the department might not have all the responses conclusive, but that at least you must bring us closer towards how best they can be addressed. And that is why I even spoke about the 2 months. Or maybe within the next 2 months we should get a thorough report, because as it stands, that this we don't have a report. Despite the fact that we've kept following up on these petitions, we don't have a report. We had picked up on the Boschkop one, or there was a bit of a positivity. But of course, as we have picked up today, is that be that they are featured in the report, there hasn't been any follow through. So the situation remains the same. So the report will have indicated that they were unfairly treated and so on. But then there is no mechanics around how to actualize on the recommendations of the report. So we thought, as being senior managers, you would assist us to assist the petitioners, so that as they leave here, there is a bit of progress, because their petitions have been on the system for far too long. They have been lingering. And we just dread a situation where at some point I would no longer be the chair, there's somebody else. So it would mean successively there has been a change of, the committee composition, and the issues have remained obstinate. So we might want to just have a formulation around how best we can deal with these issues. But I don't want us to pressure ourselves to a point where we distort and prevaricate. If your indication is that, hey, we might not be able to respond now, you would rather be honest, and then we agree on a process. Well, we have partly agreed on a process. But it might mean we have to fast track it so that they were also able to furnish the petitioners with a feedback, more formal feedback. So I don't know, you can, unless if I'm leaving anything in numbers.
No, not Chair, agreed, but if we could get vague responses from the other officials.
Okay. So it's okay. Maybe let's get a sense from yourselves. Madam?
Good afternoon.
Okay, maybe before you come in, let's allow Member Mabunda quickly, and then you will chip in.
Yeah, no, thanks, Chair. I wanted to say that probably we should, as we did yesterday, because from how I see it, there was probably a misunderstanding of how the meeting will take, the form and way or the shape in which the meeting will take place, particularly focusing mainly on the Commission's report. Because in as much as some of the petitions speak to the Commission, particularly those that were not consulted, other issues that were raised by the petitioners had nothing to do with the Commission's report. I think there could have a misunderstanding there. Maybe as a way of suggestion, I will therefore suggest that, as you put it, maybe let's allow the department a reasonable time. Our administrators will give them all the petitions. They must just commit to a particular time frame that they could submit the report back to the petitions committee in response to those petitions. Because some of the issues raised, it's purely administrative. I mean, if I listened to one association, they needed a session with the department. So you can, after the meeting, or even now, commit that whoever is responsible to deal with the taxi association, when can they meet with the association, so that the matter of the petition become of the past. And on the issue that circulated, I think the HOD tried in a way to answer it, but we did not further ventilate on it. It's the issue of the Dlamini issue. I wondered, is Dlamini working on the PRE, or which section of the department is he working on, so that we get an understanding of how the issue will be dealt with, at least some sort of commitment from the department. Besides that, we'll look into it. There is a petitioners here who are raising pertinent issues of the Dlamini issues. We can't be saying to them, no, we'll look into it. I don't think that is acceptable, Chair. There should be a process mechanism in which the department brings forward to say, this is how we'll deal with the matter. And unfortunately, because of this conflation of issues, they probably will not be ready. But in the report that they need to submit, they must submit a process steps in which the issue of the Dlamini issue can or will be dealt with, so that petitioners as well are able to find joy in the way we resolve issues. Because it's fair and fine to suppose to assume that Dlamini is just running all over, or is just doing his work, as the HOD will have said. But also, if you are doing your work properly, there's no way in which people can write petitions about you doing your work properly. I think it's something that we, as a department, needs to look into to make sure that we respond to the petitioners. We might not be able to answer it today, but it's important to get in touch with the petitioners, find out exactly the merits of their complaint. What are these issues that makes them to write a petition about an individual in a department, and then find a way of resolving those issues. Because I suppose if it's issues that are for the department, it can't be attached to, it can't be individualized to Dlamini as a person if it's a departmental policy or issues. I think I'll pause it, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Member Shabalala. You also wanted to come in? Member Shabalala.
Thank you, Chair. I think I agree with Member Day. I think we might sit here until 8, but still we would not find an amicable solution. And also to check from the department in the interim, I think there is a taxi association that raised an issue that they have a court order that was granted to them to say they must go back and operate in routes that they were operating. So just wanted to check from the department, in the interim, what kind of intervention can you come up to ensure that they start operating? Thank you.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, so is that all the members before we hand over to the officials, senior managers? Senior managers.
We are covered. Mr. Dlamini falls under Mr. Sonje. She's still coming.
Okay.
Monitoring. And the other one is licensing, whatever.
Yeah.
Let's hear them out.
And also speak to, because based on the report, those that might have been covered there, how do you then bring them up to speed so that they don't have to wait for the 3 months, because it might be disadvantageous. Because the report already states that, I mean, for instance, the Boschkop one, the report says there was wrongdoing on their part. Now, it might be a further prejudice to them if you say wait for the 3 months, when the report makes a case about the unfair treatment. You see. And this is not to say other petitions are of a lesser significance, but at least on those ones, because we have not interacted with them, we can then agree on a process. So yeah, maybe you wanted to come in, my sister?
Yes, thank you very much, Chairperson. Again, my name is Nonhlanhla Dube, and I'm responsible for operating licenses. Now, firstly, I must just indicate that my colleague, Ms. Smith, was correct in saying we have unfortunately have not received the petitions. And we even had a side chat with Mr. Sochane where I was confirming whether he had, and unfortunately he had not. So I was going to perhaps suggest two things if the committee allows. And the member has already addressed the first one, be that we be given the petitions so that we can start working on them. But as senior managers, it does not necessarily mean that we are not au fait with the issues that have been raised. So issues that have been raised that we believe can be addressed here and now, I believe they can. So that we deal with some of the issues, we discard of some of the issues, and then we are left with those that will go back to the office and get proper reports from our fellow junior officials. So that was my suggestions, Chair. Thank you.
Stone, where are the petitions? How come your managers don't know about these petitions? I know we agree in that we'll give the department a bit of time. But we really need to know, because we refer these petitions to you.
Yeah, no, thanks very much, Chair. Without really sounding defensive and complicating matters, we do have a process of communicating, and I'm talking now as the MEC's office, communicating with the rest of the units
through the HOD office in terms of petitions as and when we receive them. And to the best of my collection, all the petitions that have been forwarded to the department have been shared with the colleagues, but it may very well be possible that some of them, for whatever reason, may not have landed on the desk. So we profusely want to apologize, Chair, and as the MEC's office take full responsibility in ensuring that this matter is attended to without any further delay. So that's yeah. So we don't want, I don't really want to sound defensive. We take this matter very serious. We'll attend to it, and I'm sure the MEC in no time should be able to provide a report to the Chair in terms of what really transpired.
Yeah, Garo was just sadly today, but it's really unacceptable that managers in the department can say we don't know, we don't have these petitions. It's unacceptable because we know that we have sent them to the department. You see, we even have got proof that we have sent them to the department. You see, and we have actually been following up on them. Why would that Mama Smith? So the department has got those petitions. You see, that the soldier. It's just that fella we were really trying to find a suitable way to deal with it. But truly speaking, it's not something that we would excuse or even accept. You see, because it might mean we then say to the MEC, come and present yourself. Ordinarily we do that. We summon MECs to come and account to the committee. But with the explanations given, we said it's okay, send the HOD and senior managers. So when all of you say, but hey, you know what, maybe we have not gone through them as yet. So let's, is that your sentiments as well in that thing? In that is okay, so are you agreeable with what is being raised by your fellow colleagues?
Chair, I am actually in agreement with what the colleagues have raised. However, I can also say that I may have had sight of one or two of the petitions some 2-3 years ago, which I recall. But certainly when we came here, the invite was very, very clear that we are just coming here to present the findings and recommendations. Yeah.
We're very calm.
Okay.
Yesterday, we're not taking these things. You know, yesterday, it's just that fella the sensitivity of the issues that we are dealing with. You see, that is why we're calm. Ordinarily, we would not be. Rest assured. You see, rest assured. So, in essence, it means we owe an apology to the petitioners. You see, because the moment we send out an invite to the department to come and present on the commission of inquiry, you must ask yourself why. Why is the petitions committee interested? Ordinarily, we wouldn't be. It's not our forte. The only reason why that is, it's because there are petitions related to the work of the commission of inquiry. And there's nothing else that interests us in that report. You see? So at times we must be able to analyze these things, because we are not even the portfolio committee of roads and transport. You see, what the petition standing committee, it's just that, you know, we cut across all committees. We can call anybody. You see? So the reason why we called you on this report was because there are petitions related to its work, or so at least we thought that would be the case. You see? So as I say, what are we saying that the soldier? You see, or no, we don't want to hear excuses. So what we are going to request, and maybe through our petitioners, I get you like pick up a problem. I get Or it might have been that managers did not understand that they would be expected as well to speak to petitions. No? So we want to correct it. How do we correct it, members? Earlier on, I had suggested that we await the report. Should we go with that process? You want to come in? Yeah, assist me so that we formulate a better on a process.
Thanks, Chair.
If you can speak to the mic so that you are more audible.
So it means I never spoke to the mic the whole day.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Now
Chair.
got a shop stewards voice.
I think there is an element of miscommunication from ourselves and our back office, including the department. And I think how you wrap it up to say, let's have a follow-up session after which I have submitted everything to them so that they come back to us prepared. And further apologize to our petitioners with regard to what transpired. Was the impression the HOD created is that the staff that is left behind is competent to deal with all the matters. But unfortunately, it's not here. You might find that the department from the MEC's office have received notices, only to find that they were not cascaded down to the relevant officials. I'm not bailing them out. I'm just saying there could be that possibility. And having said that, I agree that let's have a process to deal with these matters, and you on our behalf, we can engage our own staff and the department just to get to know exactly where was the blockage. And then we don't necessarily have to take it out so that you can deal it offline and advise us accordingly as to when can we have a follow-up session. Otherwise, I'm happy, but I think at this point in time, I can detect where the problem is. It might not assist us to pinpoint it now. Thanks.
Yeah. Safe to say there was no miscommunication. So the point about miscommunication wasn't there. Because I write my letters. Nobody writes the letters for me. So I can tell you now, where I wrote to the MEC, and specifically said to the MEC, the Petition Standing Committee will facilitate engagements between the department and the petitioners. The delegation should be people who have knowledge of the inquiry report that will be in the position to respond to queries and points of discussion to find an amicable resolve and closure of the petitions. So this is the letter that I've written. But it's okay. I was just dealing with the part about the miscommunication. We don't miscommunicate. Where I'm in charge, there's no miscommunication. That much I can assure you. You wanted to come in that
Chair, I won't waste time. I think Member Letsoalo would have touched. It said that we are here and we are just reading the inquiry report in the main, which we would have done in our own separate time and space. And the main purpose for us to be here was to touch on issues affecting the petitioners. I mean, the petitioners' chair are saying some of them, their taxis have been parked for a while. And they were raising questions about the operating licenses. They were raising questions about merger of taxi associations, which has taken time. So I'm not sure how you are going to deal with it, Chair, when we say we want another report in 2 months. Are we also postponing these questions for 2 months or what? I just wanted to get a clarity there, because I would agree that they must go and prepare themselves with a correct report. But in terms of dealing with these imminent issues that might have been raised, something must happen nearer than 2 months, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, Bawundlov. You are agreeable?
Yeah. Chair, I agree with the proposal that is made. And also I think 2 months is a bit long time. And also, Chair, can you please request when you submit that invite to the MEC, please indicate that the HOD and the senior staff for that day, they must clear their schedules. Because these are serious matters. and then we cannot resolve them in just few hours. And also maybe, as a chair, maybe you can find a day where we'll only deal with these petitions, but 2 months I think is a bit far. Maybe check in a space of a month, let's sit down. And chair, also when you write that letter, you must detail the grievances that were raised here today to say, when you come and respond, these are the grievances that you must come and table reports on, so that on that day we are able to resolve their petition. And also on the interim, they must also address this issue of they were granted court orders to start operating, but apparently other associations are denying them the right to operate. Also maybe in the interim, if they can see what is it that they can do to help so that they start operating. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, no, thanks. I'll tell you on the issue around the HOD MEC is that initially the hearings were scheduled for a different date, but we had to shift to today. And that is what will have affected the availability of both the MEC and the HOD. So I will have agreed with both of them that the HOD.
A suggestion around 2 months, which was actually
more reasonable.
You know why it's more reasonable, Chair? And I wish you allow me to talk and finish. It's more reasonable because the executive statement that I put earlier on, in terms of institutional arrangement, we will have to consult with Tshwane municipality in terms of issues around associations that are residing there. I know that there's something that the municipality has been doing with law enforcement around Central Top 11 issues. We have implemented the order, yes, but the issue here is operations. So we need to consult with the municipality and find out what have they done so far with law enforcement. So it's going to be a long consultative process. Hence, I'm saying, yes, it's reasonable, but can we be given that initial 2 months that was
yeah, so what we are in essence, and I'm happy your colleagues are agreeable. So what we are in essence saying is that give us an update. So an update connotes that you might not have concluded, but there will have been some level of work being put in.
Yes.
That is what we are saying. Give us an update. And earlier on, I think I mentioned it. It might not necessarily be a final report, but it's an update. So that we allay all the anxieties and the frustrations. Member Ndlovu is quite correct. People waiting indefinitely, it might not assist them. You know? I see there's 2 hands. Let's quickly take the 2 hands, and then we wrap up.
Oh, thank you, Chair. We are having a problem. Our problem is very much serious and it concerns lives. We were informed that the department won't allow us to go and work because some of the taxi operators which we are supposed to merge with, they're given a statement that they must kill the chairperson and the person who comes to the petitions committee to who lay the complaint. So we are afraid
they must kill who? Me?
No, this one. They must kill Mr. Mahlangu and me so that they can give the association to their friends so that it goes back to mainland. So the petitions will come again maybe after 2 years again because people the problem won't be solved. So we are I think that the department is playing with our lives because they're coming with miscommunications. They say they are apologizing, but there's a possibility of death. After living here, maybe next week, some of us will never see the month which we are suggesting. So we are appealing that in the interim, what we do, because we rely on SASSA, 350 a month, it's not sufficient. We are not working. So you must take us into consideration, you, the department. Because at times when you phone the MEC asks, why are you phoning me? And then give us the number so that you can contact him whereas when we have problems. But when you call him, he said, why are you calling me chief? And then we feel that the department is playing games, is playing games with us. We are speaking about lives here. Taxi industry is not easy. After leaving this particular gathering, one of us might be dead. And we are still postponing us, say, after a month we must give a report and so on. But why you are doing the interim? Even if they can kill us, but we must have something to live for our kids. So this is very serious. Thank you.
Yeah, safe to say that there's something that both Mayor Dube and Tate Sojana mentioned. That it doesn't mean that when we say 1 month, on specific matters that the department can address, they would be able to address. That is what you will have said in that Soja. Because we really would want to respect processes. We don't want to impose ourselves on what can be done. We don't work in the department. So we're only trying to be as reasonable as we possibly can be. And that is why we shifted from the 2 months to a month, because we will have considered all of the frustrations that you are contending with. So I want to make an appeal that you bear with us. I know it's not easy. So the issue around law enforcement is what might have to be looked into so that you don't have the kind of threats to your lives. I'm not sure whether the department might have to liaise with the community safety, because I know there are those specific witness and victim protection programs. That if you are identifying, a danger to any individual, they can be enrolled into that program, so that at least for the time being we secure their lives up until a finalization of all of these matters. Member Mabunda, you had wanted to say something?
No, Chair. I think you've covered in part what I wanted to say, but further to say, I would have wanted to suggest that maybe we probably need to adjourn for 5-10 minutes and allow the department to do a quick consultation, particularly on that matter, because if from our end people are not operating and we are still deferring the matter for a month or two, it might be inappropriate considering the time they've waited. So I'm not sure whether it will assist the department to give them 5-10 minutes to consult whoever they need to consult, so that at least they give some sort of interim way of dealing with the problem. You've actually spoken to one which is consulting either with the HOD, remember the HOD was here, or the MEC, or whoever they can consult, or the municipality if it's issues that affect the municipality, so that we know exactly what needs to happen. It might not be like an absolute resolution to the problem, but setting up a process that will seek to resolve the issue, so that before the end of the month, when we come back, maybe the issue will have been partially resolved. At least a mechanism to start resolving the problem, as opposed to just waiting for a report in a month's time, which in effect is not a resolution to the problem.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, I thought my earlier submissions, Member Mabunda, catered to that. And maybe let me rephrase what I would have said with what the senior managers will have indicated, is that the operations issues also would militate that they interface with the municipality. You see, so it's not solely on their part, but there would then have to be exchanges between them and the municipality. But the 1 month caters to everybody. Safe to say that the department starts immediately after this meeting to try to remedy all the issues that have been raised. And I think earlier I did even mention that, but zoom into the Boschkop matter, because at least the report speaks to it. You see, at least the report speaks to it. But over and above, we'll give you a month so that you also deal with all, and it's the same. I mean, the frustrations that are faced by Boschkop, I'm sure are faced by everybody else. You see? So I wouldn't want to lift up one over others. You know? Safe to say, what will be deemed emergent as born out of the report also be prioritized. Because at least, you know, there's that articulation is coming from the report itself. So maybe the 1 month, because we don't want to have a disjointed arrangement where we say do this for Boschkop within a week's time and then for all others. Yeah, it wouldn't be well if there are different dispensations around how the issues must be handled. Remember, we will have said, much as we are saying a month, it could be that the department could have dealt with several issues within a week's time or 2 weeks' time, you know, and then they can report. They don't necessarily have to deal with all of them. If one of them is concluded, they can simply send forth a report, and that is all. If you have handled one, you can simply send us a report so that we feedback almost immediately. Yeah, it's not as if we're building houses where you have to wait for all the units to be concluded, to be completed, and only issue title deeds. So it's not like that. So deal with any and then give us a report. Report as you go. Yeah, report as you go. Does that assist Mama Bunda? Yeah. Yeah, maybe let's, in seeking your indulgence, I think that would assist. I keep on forgetting your surname. Yeah. Joseph, but it's not that. Can I get that, man? Kima?
Ranamani.
Ramani.
Ranamani.
Oh, Ranamani.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chair, on the Boschkop, because we on the interim recommendation, more the Commission of Inquiry, a director or Gauteng Department of Transport. Now, Chair, we were stopped before for 5 years. Raingejale Raisa MEC wa Gauteng court. It's a appeal, a fail. Here Ari say back to rank. Kimori engage the senior managers, but it's from pillar to post. But that kind of time. Up until the Copanale MEC, Kika Iraya Ishmael Vadi. Up until the Copanale MEC Mama Wall. What it's last year, 23 December. Arisa Gorenge. A lot before when we were engaging the Gauteng Department of Transport, all the managers never was or if Rikawala Rengeng, that association by Yorubolai. But today we are still alive because MEC Mama Bolo, who make it sure aware that association, yeah, it's a such a members are not and if Bagabola one Morena, there will be decisive actions. Now, because we have an interim recommendations and are operate because of the MEC Jacob Mamabol. Gauteng Department of Transport, Co-Commission of Inquiry, it's a re bona bio deregister that association. Bona.
Which one?
The Simuni.
Is it the one that you belong to?
Yeah, I belong to Central Top 11 Taxi Association.
The other one?
The other one that had merged with us fraudulently. Now, the Gauteng Department of Transport on the interim recommendation number 3, Kamutasaya Boschkop, it says the Department of Roads and Transport, they will deregister, ke bona ba re bjao. They will deregister Simunye. And Arona, we are failing to obtain the operating license because by the reject. But the MEC, it's like, the MEC recognizes us, the department does not recognize us. Because they're applied by the reject. And
Okay. So, so.
Thank you.
Raman, because I don't want us to get into the granular details of your specific matter, because everybody might say, you see? So we have in essence agreed on a process. And that is why earlier on I cautioned that if you are to introduce different dispensations, you might have a bit of a challenge. So we have agreed with the department for a month. But it doesn't mean that they can't handle specific issues immediately. So if they can, they should do that. And this is what we'll communicate back to the MEC. Or MEC, we have agreed. And maybe because even the HOD was here when we agreed. We will also feed back to him. We have agreed on a month within which the department would be expected to furnish the committee and yourselves with an update insofar as how they are intervening on your specific issues. Can I request that we leave it at that, so that we don't circulate?
Yes.
Ne? So that we don't circulate. Agar lo rona responsibility within that month. This is where we are. So the commitment on the part of the department is a cross commitment to us. You see, it's a cross commitment to us. And that Mahela will know when we say we'll take up this thing, we'll definitely do that. Again. So yeah, I'm making that appeal that we leave it there, and that we adjourn our meeting for the day up until we get that update. And that would be the order of the process going forward. Is there any announcements? Ma'am Mfako.
Thank you, Chair. The announcement is the lunch is ready at the restaurant, so everybody is welcomed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's have lunch and we can have other side discussions. So thank you very much to yourselves, our petitioners. Thank you very much to the department. That is what yeah. No, thank you very much to members and to the administrative membership and all other support personnel. So we stand, we're not even adjourned, the meeting is finished. So thank you very much.
Then we go. I want to make this other thing for
because re tlo araba re araba.
Thank you very much. All of them.
Only for you.
Let's play. There's a copy of my ideas for her. Yeah. Original Yeah, no, I'm availing myself. They must call me on my own systems. Put up the temporary structures, shelter, patient. Yes. And then there are several housing matters.